Chapter 461. Many hours earlier in the day, around noon body double POV, I leave my main body at the edge of the canyon and use the transport crystal to teleport back into the lobby of the Galeheart Tower. I put up my mana shielding, but unfortunately don't have chi to block my overwhelming mana control presence in this form. Only the ability to block my intimidation aura. That will have to do for now. I won't be able to go outside the tower into Valor City without being noticed in this form. So, I call out to the lobby men while walking toward the front desk. Lith, I need to talk with Lith. Ding. The elevator door opens, and the man in question walks out, replying to me promptly. Back so soon? I assumed you'd make it to Sector 2 quickly, but this kind of speed was not expected. That answers the question of where Ari went earlier too. Seems you've been busy. I guess Fisher and Lydia won't be getting their full day off. He chuckles, but I reply in an urgent tone. Yes, I made it out to Sector 2, but the Dark One managed to send a few of its higher-level guards out there too. I think they were looking for me ever since I ditched the arena event last night. Litha's eyes widen. You managed to come face to face with multiple Dark Guards and made it out alive? I nod. Yeah. 6 of them showed up in the sky and attacked on sight. I managed to kill them all. Even the strongest one that was over level 1000. I recount the events of my dealings in the town, excluding the mention of any unique riches found in the warehouses and of course the help of Ember in my battle, but make sure to keep Lith fully informed of what went down so he knows the severity of this situation. I point to the ceiling for my next ask. Pull up the surveillance system. I need to find my teammates. That 7th rank Dark Guard threatened them before I killed him, so I'd like to make sure they're safe before the Dark One finds out what I've done. There probably isn't much time left. Without question, Lith brings up the live surveillance of Valor City, and we begin scrolling through it together, watching ordinary people go about their day-to-day lives in the silver, gold, and platinum districts. After scouring the streets, zooming in and out of every corner inside shops and behind buildings, there's no sign of Abby or Maria in sight. They must be training with Monk. I let out a sigh and shift my focus back to the silver and gold districts. If they're in the monastery, we won't be able to sense them until they come out. Considering the arena event doesn't start for another 6 hours or so, this is going to be a long wait. I zoom in on a very fancy upscale lounge in the gold district. There are large, comfortable-looking recliners, an active spa treatment in session for clients inside, and many courses of delicious food being served on golden platters. Beautiful young women in maid outfits are serving the men while handsome men in butler uniforms serve the women. Right in the middle of this display, I see my other 2 teammates, Lydia and Fisher, sitting back with hot towels over their faces, enjoying the day. I almost can't believe what I'm seeing. Then again, they did want the day off to rest and explore the city. I let out a sigh and turn away from the moving image projection, scratching my head and thinking to myself, this tale has been unlawfully lifted from Royal Road. Report any instances of this story if found elsewhere. Let them rest for now, this is fine. Those 2 have never been in an arena event, so I doubt the Dark One has its sights set on them. Lith speaks up. I could send one of my workers into the city to wait outside their shop to tell them to come back to the tower once they've finished their fun. I nod. Sure, that would be perfect. My gaze shifts back to the Platinum District, and I zoom in on the monastery. Its entrance looks like a dark black void, as no mana can be picked up on this surveillance system. I speak up again. Could I get a sheet of paper and a pen? I'd like to send a message to Abby and Maria, but I doubt it's going to be as simple as walking up to the monastery and handing them a letter. I think to myself for a moment in silence as Lith motions for the lobby men to fetch me paper. Then I continue speaking. If we notify them right now, the entire Dark Guard could swarm the Platinum District in an instant. It would be rather odd for an unknown person to approach the monastery without Monk's permission. Even if the Dark One knows they're here, it doesn't bother attacking because it doesn't fear them. If too many odd events begin occurring at once, it will surely become much more suspicious. Lith responds. So, we wait until they naturally come out on their own. That would be the safest bet. I take the papers from the lobbymen and begin to fill in the events of the last few hours along with what I believe is the best course of action for them. In simplified terms, the core message reads, "Run. We've got company. Get back to the Galehart Tower now. J." However, once I hand the paper off to one of Litha's workers that looks just like a very generic businessman in a presentable manner to infiltrate the city unnoticed. The other guard called forward to retrieve Fisher and Lydia looks like a weekend shopper with less professional attire. It's impressive how quickly he manages to get his team together for specific jobs. All I can do now is sit back and wait. Lith turns to the elevator and motions for me to follow. "Come on. This is going to take a few hours. We might as well get comfortable." I walk into the elevator with him, and we're brought back up to his office. The surveillance system comes online in his penthouse suite as well, and I sit back on a comfortable chair with my arms crossed, staring up at the city, watching people go about their daily lives. In the back of my mind, a timer ticks away, while my real body trains Ari and begins to climb the labyrinth on its way to reach level 1000. Hours go by here in the city. Fisher and Lydia finish up their time at the spa and go on a short shopping spree to buy some new interesting magic items and accessories, then are briefly filled in on the situation by the undercover shopper brought in by Lith. They casually take their time leaving the city not to draw any extra attention and use their transport crystals to come back to the tower once they're far away from the city and out of sight. Once they get back to the tower, both of them come up the elevator and begin to question me more about this cryptic warning. But after an explanation, they begin to see the seriousness of all of this and cease their complaints. They watch the surveillance of the monastery with us up in the penthouse office. We all patiently wait for our other teammates to come out and for the businessman standing in the lobby of a partner trading company's tower nearby with a message in hand to give it to them. It's rather natural that many businessmen would be waiting for meetings or finishing work in these buildings. Standing around fiddling with paperwork isn't very uncommon. Another hour or so passes before three figures emerge from the dark hallway. As soon as they do, the businessman sees them from across the street and walks out the door, making his way down the road to coincidentally cross paths with the trio. He pretends to accidentally not be looking where he's going and stumbles into their path. With a worried look plastered on his face, he apologizes for making them stop in their path by bowing and reaching out a hand to Monk. As he shakes and accepts his apology, it's clear there's more to this interaction. Once his eyes meet the paper, he squeezes his hand closed tight and speaks up to Abby and Maria. "I forgot one thing, please. Let us head back to the training rooms momentarily." With confused expressions, they agree, and my heart rate stops beating at such a rapid pace once I see them step back inside the black monastery door. 20 minutes later, they all come out again, walking to the Platinum Gate entrance at a fast and steady pace, not saying a word. They make it through and move to the Gold District. However, out of the corner of my eye, I see a large black suit of armor come out from one of the private towers in the Platinum District. It flashes its wristbands and makes its way into the Gold District. The Platinum Guards bow down to the Royal Guard that is making a rare appearance in the main city. As the trio walks to the next gate, making their way into the Silver District, the Royal Guard isn't far behind. It is quickly and calmly closing the gap between them until they make it to the final gate that leads to outside. As they do, the Royal Guard motions for the Silver Guards to halt their activities, and Monk, Abby, and Maria have to directly confront the mysterious black armored guard. The words that echo through the surveillance system from the Royal Guard are quite surprising. "You three must compete in the arena event tonight. Without the Flame Emperor present, our newest guests still wish to see a show. We can't have our top performers leaving the city so soon." Lith rotates the angle of the live video, and a large number 5 is printed on the black armored guard's chest plate, glowing bright orange through its heavy armor. Chapter 462. I can't sense the guard from here inside the tower, but that number 5 on its armor looks eerily familiar to the 7 I saw on the dark guard that I fought in the desert. Considering the strength difference it showed compared to the lower-leveled guards, I can only assume this one is far stronger than that double-ranked-up colossal. If it really wanted my teammates dead, there's no question it'd already be done. This means it has something else planned. There must be a reason it wants them to enter the arena. I watch as reflexively. All three of them reach for their item boxes on their waists. But the Dark Guard speaks up again while the large number 5 glows brighter on its chest. Not so fast. A pulse of red-orange energy comes out of the guard, and 2 long soul energy manifested swords form in its hands. Faster than the eye can see, the guard strips each of them of their storage pouches and holds one sword to Monk's neck, and the other in front of both Abby and Maria. Like I said before, you won't be leaving the city just yet. The Dark One is expecting a show and wishes for repayment for breaking his toys. The Dark Guard lets its energy blades disappear back into its body and dangles the 3 item storage pouches in the air while walking right down the middle of the street away from the exit gate and toward the arena. Come on. Fight in the arena tonight. Then you're free to do as you wish. All 3 of them are frozen in place, most likely feeling a similar sensation to the one time I was face to face with the 7th-ranked Dark Guard in the arena before I was powerful enough to take it on. Although I can't sense the energy levels of this interaction, I can see clear as day on the surveillance system that the power gap here is immense. As blue and green energies begin to swirl around the 2 women, and I see red lights sparking up in both of their eyes, Monk's voice can be heard, stopping mayhem from breaking loose. We'll do it, we'll fight. But please, leave our storage pouches close by in the training hall. I have important family goods in there. It's important they're not damaged or lost. I don't care for the money or high-grade items, but you understand sentimental value, right? The Dark Guard doesn't stop walking toward the arena but replies. Fine, as long as each of you agrees to actually fight to the 7th stage, we'll keep your belongings close by. Heavily guarded, but close. If even one of you thinks about running away or quitting the fight, you're all dead. Deal. The 3 of them follow the Dark Guard into the arena to register, and all I can do is watch and wait. A million theories turn through my mind, and tons of options including getting my main body and Ember to come to help with this situation come up, but nothing seems like a viable option. This entire city is under lock and key, with a minimum of half a dozen more double-ranked up Dark Guards lurking in the shadows, not to mention their boss watching every move. As bad as it may seem, waiting and letting them figure out how to get out of this situation themselves is the best course of action. From my letter, and the time spent inside the monastery after Monk read it, I'm sure they are aware of how powerful the monsters they're dealing with are. Considering this, both Maria and Abby are very skilled fighters and strategists themselves. Monk has been living within these walls for many years too. Odds are they're already coming up with a plan to get those item boxes back themselves. I let out a sigh and sit back on my comfortable seat in Litha's office, but continue to keep my eyes glued on the surveillance screen, not missing a beat while the starting announcements for tonight's fight events echo through the room. Lydia and Fisher nervously watch, and Lith sits at his desk with his hands clasped, thinking deeply to himself and staring at the projections not showing any external emotions similar to my own stare. The surveillance system is split into 2 halves on the ceiling now. Half shows the upper area where the fights are taking place, and the other shows the underground training room where all of the contestants wait their turn to fight. There's a packed house tonight, and many new faces of strong newbie fighters along with familiar legacy fighters are down below. However, the air is very tense tonight because the Dark Guard stands by the exit stairs that lead to the surface. A pile of everyone's external loot is heavily guarded by 3 of its underling royal guards, but I can tell just by their stances these 3 are nowhere near the Dark Guard's level. Still, however, they hold a bit of prestige in this city, so no one dares defy them or challenge their wishes. The first few rounds of the arena go on as normal. The Stone Maiden starts off with a flashy first round. Many newbies give it their best shot to become legacy fighters, and both the Shield and Ace give great showings. After a few more newbie rounds, Monk takes his appearance in the ring and punches his way through all 7 stages without a single missed blow. He's brought back to the training room and Abby takes the stage next. Spears are thrown, chi is channeled, and 7 rounds of monsters are defeated even quicker than Monk's. The audience roars with joy, placing bets, getting drunk, and enjoying the show late into the night. I wait to see Dark Guards storm the ring and force them to move on to the 8th stage, but it never happens. I can tell everyone is getting rather nervous downstairs. Abby heals everyone up after their matches and strategically begins moving closer to the 3 royal guards near the side of the room guarding the miscellaneous gear. If you spot this story on Amazon, know that it has been stolen. Report the violation. Another newbie takes the stage after her battle. Then the Ice Empress is called to fight. Maria takes the stage and freezes every opponent she faces into sculptures of ice, then slices the 7th stage ghoul in 2 to end the performance of the night in a dazzling attack. The announcer continues hyping up the crowd and showing replays of the fight as Maria is transported back into the underground training room. She sees that both Abby and Monk have migrated closer to the piles of gear. As she walks over in the silent room, this is when the tension in the air finally snaps. The dark guard that stands in front of the exit speaks again, reaching into an invisible storage portal in his chest and pulling out a large orange glowing crystal. First of all, I thank you all for the wonderful show tonight. He takes a step closer and the orange crystal glows brighter. In the background, the cheers of the crowd and the announcer's voice showing highlights of the battles almost drown out the buzzing sound that gets louder from the gem. The dark guard lets go of the crystal and takes a step back. It floats in the air for a moment, then drifts slowly toward the floor. Thank you for your service entertaining the community. The Dark One has invited each and every one of you to join its ranks. A new, strong, loyal group of subordinates is just what we need to get rid of a certain pest that cut our ranks in half. No one says a word in the room. They all just watch the gem drift closer to the floor in awe. You all will now serve as royal guards and have a special power bestowed upon you by the Dark One himself. A sword that can cut through any barrier of mana, a shield that can block any mana-based attack, and a body that can outlast any mere mortal in this dreaded world. You will become far stronger than you ever knew was possible. The tip of the crystal touches the white floor of the training room, and it looks as if a pebble has fallen into a pond. The floor ripples and the crystal disappears, sending out slow-moving orange shockwaves of light. Join our forces and rule the world. The Dark One shall reign supreme. The young man who was one of the newest newbie fighters closest to the impact point on the ground is hit by the slow-moving wave of light, and a gruesome scene follows. His armor and clothes are all burned away as orange light starts to creep over his entire body. He begins to scream out in agony, and all that remains of his figure are bones and a beating orange heart left behind. In a matter of seconds, the light hits 3 other fighters and the same thing occurs, ridding them of flesh in violent yells, but imbuing their hearts with dense soul energy that keeps their skeletal structures upright. Upon seeing this, Abby wastes no time and lunges toward the weaker royal guards with her eyes locked on the item boxes that were stolen from them earlier. Bursts of Red Hydra's soul energy come leaking off of her as Abby uses her earth magic to impale the guards and dive into the pile of gear. Simultaneously, enormous red structures of ice begin to erupt from the floor as Maria activates her ranked-up ice buff aided by the Red Hydra's soul energy, piercing right through the shielding in the ceiling and shaking the room while creating a maze of mirrors and walls of shields tinted crimson. Monk channels all of his chi into his palm and thrusts it upward at the ceiling as well, sending a shockwave of chi through the entire area floor and making visible movement in the dirt flooring above. However, the shielding doesn't budge, and the ceiling stays intact without a single crack. There seems to be many layers of the A-grade shielding between the training room and the arena itself. The room beneath the arena goes into pure chaos as no amount of magic can stop the slow-moving orange light. It even ripples through Maria's walls of ice with ease, melting and shattering them to pieces without slowing its flow at all. The legacy fighters all use their elemental and speed-based powers to attempt pushing the rippling light back, but it's no use. As much as they try, even they fall subject to its curse. It's painful to watch fighters I fought alongside and had drinks with scream out in agony. However, unlike the weaker newbie fighters, the 3 legacy fighters' bodies stay intact and aren't burned away. They're enveloped in a bright yellow-orange glow and fall to the floor unconscious as runes with illegible lettering spin above their hearts. The echoing voice of the Dark Guard sounds out through the room. It's no use trying to run or fight back. This is the curse of the Lich King. If our God wishes to bring you to our ranks, there is nothing you can do to stop it. Your friend, the Flame Emperor, killed one of the upper 7 Dark Guards in Sector 2. This crime will not go unnoticed. We will find you all and wage war. An excited yell comes from the side of the room in Abby's voice. I found them. She holds 3 item boxes in one hand while grasping 3 white shimmering crystals in the other. Maria and Monk's heads turn toward her, and she throws 2 crystals through the air using all her strength and buffs to them. The Dark Guard notices its error and pulls out its energy blades to stop what's occurring by any means necessary. The crystals are being thrown less than 5 meters, while the Dark Guard stands back at the exit more than 20 meters away. Maria is closest to the approaching gems and lets out another burst of overwhelming power, letting her walls of ice glow bright red, become far more dense with mana and soul energy, and push into the ceiling even harder. She uses massive red ice crystals from her back to push her toward the teleport crystals faster. Monk moves all of his chi into his heels, pushing forward at the gem nearest to him, letting the world around him fade away and only see the glimmering gem that will bring him to safety. In the same moment, the Dark Guard lunges forward, releasing 2 dark red-orange energy crescents flying out from the swords. One is aimed at Abby and the other is heading straight for Maria and Monk. It's clear this guard is shooting to kill. It'd rather have them dead than get away. Abby is closer to the Dark Guard and crushes the transport crystal in her hand the instant she senses life-threatening danger. She's done her part and knows there isn't anything left for her to possibly do but get out of there and survive. Maria senses danger approaching too, as she's in between the blades and Monk, but knows there's no time to dodge. Its energy blade is slicing through her walls of ice like butter and rocketing their way. Her entire body glows with the red Hydra's buff, and it's being pushed to a limit I didn't know was possible. It looks similarly to when I was using it to fight that wraith for the first time, but far more concentrated and deadly. The depths of Maria's energy control are even more impressive than I believed was possible. Violent dark red tendrils of soul energy erupt from her body, increasing her speed and reflexes while also making stronger walls of ice. She digs deep into her energy control capabilities and channels every last drop of the red Hydra's soul energy to make one final wall of ice that erupts from the floor and makes itself steady by piercing through the ceiling. I can see the red energy leave her body completely. The blood-red wall is formed, and no more chi or soul energy remains in her aura as she continues to fly through the air toward the transport crystal. The metallic clang of energies colliding vibrates through the room as Monk grasps his gem behind Maria and crushes it in his hand, teleporting away to safety. The soul energy crescent sent from the Dark Guard collides with the final blood-red wall of ice and is stopped in place for a fraction of a second. Its outer layer is ripped away, lessening its attack power just slightly and altering its course. Maria grabs the teleportation crystal in the air while the soul energy crescent breaks through her final defensive wall. Due to the small alteration in course, the blade misses her heart by centimeters as she's sliced across the chest and opposite shoulder. Even so, she still manages to break the crystal in her hand and disappears in a flash of white light. The room is filled with the echoing angered yell of the 5th-ranked Dark Guard. A massive blood-red ice crystal sticks up through the arena floor, completely destroying the training room below and disabling the shielding of the fight ring on the surface. Screams of innocent bystanders in the crowd begin to spread, and the announcer of the event tries to calm everyone down. On this cue, I immediately shut off the surveillance system and run to the elevator. The multiple seconds of waiting as the cart brings me to the lobby floor feels like an eternity. The white floor is stained with blood, and my heart races faster as the elevator door opens. Green flashes of light from Abby's restoration magic fill the room. However, my attention is solely captivated by the warm blue eyes and radiant white smile that greets me from across the lobby, reassuring me that everything worked out. Chapter 463. Main Body POV Midnight. My teammates approach me from the canyon, and my double points a finger to its forehead to kill itself. The memories of the arena come rushing into my consciousness. Imagery of the 5th-ranked Dark Guard trying to possess my teammates, and Maria's overwhelming display of energy control to give Abby and Monk a chance to get away alive repeat in my mind. The fact that the 5th-ranked Dark Guard already knows I defeated the 7th-ranked Dark Guard, and said the Dark One is waging an attack to get revenge makes me wonder where all of the other guards are. Especially the 6th, and the question of the actual power gap between guards also concerns me. Even using every last drop of the Red Hydra's buff in a single attack, Maria managed to only shift the trajectory of that monster's basic slash. It was impressive, but considering it took all of her power and she's most likely the strongest out of all of them, it's actually more concerning. If they didn't have a getaway plan and were in an actual fair fight, none of them would have lasted a second. I look at Maria, Abby, Monk, Fisher, and Lydia as they float up onto flat ground. They stand on the newly built stone road, lit up in the night, and I do full scans of each of them, accessing displays of their powers and abilities quickly, coming to a single conclusion. Maria speaks it aloud before I can say it myself. Jay, we need to get stronger. Those dark guards are on a level far above anything I've seen before. In our current shape, we stand no chance. In the same moment, I see all 5 of their gazes shift to the sky behind me and get in a battle-ready position. However, I speak up and put my hands up in the air. Hey, don't worry. You're safe here for now. That's an ally. Ember and my double come floating down from deep within the desert. They must have just come from collapsing another dungeon. It's been almost 5 hours since I sent them off to continue collecting energy for the isolation pod. My double's mana control is off the charts, which is probably once sent my teammates into attack mode. I can sense it like a beacon in the sky. However, Ember is basically invisible to all of their senses. As they touch down, I continue to speak. There's no need to fill me in on the details. My double already caught me up to speed. I look toward the crimson-haired human form of my dragon partner, then turn back to my teammates. I'd like you all to meet the newest member of our party. Everyone, meet Ember. He walks toward the 5 of them with a calm expression and graceful silent steps, scanning them with an unknown aura of energy. He silently stares at them and looks each of them up and down with a natural-looking smile. I remember he did a similar thing with Ari. It was weird then, and it's still weird now, but Ember doesn't exactly spend much time with humans, so my best guess is he's just acting natural. Or, a more likely explanation is he knows it's odd and just doesn't care what anyone thinks. So, he acts as he pleases. I shrug and place a hand on my head. He's been away from people for a while, so just know he means well. Ember is strong, and an ally I trust with my life. So I hope to see you all treat him like you would treat me. He'll grow on you soon. I let out a sigh, then begin walking slowly back and forth while deeply thinking to myself. He can handle greetings on his own. I need to figure out our next plan of action. And fast. What Maria said is right. I need to find a way to get them all in fighting shape for the inevitable confrontation with the Dark Guards. Stolen content alert. This content belongs on Royal Road. Report any occurrences. Ari greets each of the team members briefly, and Abby introduces him to Monk, but it's clear to see on his face he's still spent from training his demonic energy manipulation all day. While my mind wanders, Ari and my double step aside to observe while Ember begins to confront my teammates. He speaks up for the first time after examining Fisher and Lydia. You two are strong fighters, proficient in mana control and have very refined and practiced sword techniques. Out of everyone here, you may not have the highest degree of overwhelming natural talent, but your experience and training shows. He puts out a hand and silently shakes both of their hands with nods of respect, then slowly walks over to Abby next. He gets up close to her face and stares her in the eyes for a few seconds before displaying a grin and stepping back. Restoration magic. Is that so? I haven't felt this presence in quite a while. Ember looks up to the sky, muttering to himself. Not since. Was it that dryad that became a divine beast a few centuries ago? Was she the last one that had that skill? Too bad her immortality was cut short like the others during the incident. Though, it explains why her talent is still floating around looking for a host. He looks back into Abby's eyes, then puts out a hand to shake. Never mind that. Anyway, nice to meet you. It seems fate works in mysterious ways. I'd say I'm surprised you're in Jay's party. But honestly, that would be a lie. It will be a pleasure fighting by your side. They shake hands, and Ember's attention quickly moves to Maria. The dragon's bright red eyes pulse with energy at the sight of the limitless potential it sees within Maria's energy control. Ember doesn't move for almost 5 whole seconds, examining the fluctuations in her aura and seeing the chi rest calmly in her core, yet acting like an abyss that calls for more. His grin that's still plastered on his face from meeting Abby widens even further, and he lets out a laugh. Incredible. Such an insatiable hunger for energy, yet wielded by a delicate-looking woman. Appearances are very deceiving, aren't they? Maria responds, stepping forward with a confident look on her face and a sharpened gaze. You're right, about all of us. And if Jay trusts you, then so do I. But I don't understand your words and tone. What is all of this talk about immortality, divine beasts, and most importantly, what energy source are your abilities coming from? I can't sense a drop of chi or mana coming off your body. Who or what are you? Ember takes a step back and stops chuckling, crossing his arms. Maria, right? Your name is a very familiar one floating around in Jay's mind. When our telepathy is linked, it shows up in my subconscious often. I always wondered what you'd be like, and I'm not disappointed. You may have the greatest potential of everyone here. What an interesting team. He puts out a hand to shake, and Maria stares down at it, not wanting to accept the gesture just yet. Ember speaks again. I promise you, in time more will become clear. Jay keeps his secrets for good reason. I'm one of his most guarded ones. This is the beginning of a road to see him opening up much more in the future. See me as a bridge to his mind. I believe you will learn more about his motives and desires soon. She continues to look at the hand for a few more seconds in silence, then decides to shake it with her own. Okay, fine. Nice to meet you, Ember. They release their grip, and Ember finally moves to Monk, who waits patiently, staring off into the empty desert with his arms crossed and gaze steady. Ember curiously looks him up and down, then poses a simple question. Do you worship the originators? Mention of that word makes Monk's head turn to meet his eyes in an instant. He doesn't say anything back, but it's clear Ember struck a chord with this line. Ember leans in closer, scanning every part of his body, then eyeing the item pouch around his waist. What? I don't care if you do or don't. Everyone knows the Origin civilization left us to a higher plane before any modern tools of record-keeping existed. It's not like I'm accusing you of anything, just wondering if you care to study their practices. Your lack of mana control and the contents of that storage pouch just lead me to such a conclusion. His eyes widen even more, then he finally speaks. You know of the Origin civilization? Ember shrugs, responding in a nonchalant manner. Hardly, only rumors and replicated texts. Most of the real books that taught proper chi control and the creation of the system were lost in wars on planets that no longer have names I can remember. He lets out a sigh and waves a hand in the air. Trust me, I looked for answers longer than anyone. If they wanted to be found, they'd have shown themselves by now. Ember points a finger to Monk's storage pouch again. Any relics you believe will show you the real truth one day are nothing more than junk left behind by those that have moved on. They took everything valuable with them. Monk closes his mouth and bows, keeping silent for a few seconds, then bringing his head back up. I understand, but it is my life's journey to continue my search. Ember nods again. Very well. There's no point in trying to stop you. Who knows, maybe a stone or two haven't been looked under yet. There's always a chance. Whatever the case may be, you are strong. I look forward to fighting with you. Ember puts out a hand and they shake. He turns back to me in my main body as I finally finish with my brainstorming, and I've come up with a perfect plan. The rumbling sound of wooden carts full of heavy rocks sound nearby as the grunts under mind control come walking our way. I step up and look my teammates in the eyes. Welcome to Sector 2. This is our new territory, run by me, the Flame Emperor. I burst into a display of fire that signals the grunts to turn around and walk back toward the town. I have a lot to explain, and we have a lot of training to do. However, together we'll defeat every single Dark Guard and take the head of the Lich King. So, follow me. Tonight we will prepare for war. Chapter 464. After the group acknowledges our goal, and me as their leader in this moment, I get the option to add Fisher, Lydia, and Monk to my Rising Emperor's domain system. I do so without notifying them of this change and now see their status screens and geopoints light up in my mind's eye. Then, I give instructions to my body double and Ember to go back to charging up the isolation pod while I train with my team. Ari tags along with them, and I give permission to use one of the saturated stones on the pod that hasn't been charged up yet. Ari needs a rest after training, and using the fully charged pod would be a waste to use now. I need that supercharged pod exclusively saved to use for chi control training for myself and my teammates. I don't mind a few billion MP being used up to bring the other pod up to 8x dilation for future use though. According to the old crafter's note, not much energy will be lost from anything under 10x. So, using one stone to make a pod where 1 hour of rest will equal over a full night's sleep will be perfect for the session we're about to have. Once he's rested up, my double will find us in the labyrinth. The three of them go off into the canyon, and I turn to the remainder of my team. By foot, the journey out here from Sector may first take days or even weeks. By sky it would take hours, maybe a day at most. My guess is they will travel by flight again, so an enemy attack could come at any time. However, your escape from capture and run-in with the 5th rank Dark Guard means the Dark One's forces are not all on their way just yet. I pause and walk to the edge of the canyon, making another body double to max out all 3 copy slots of this skill. I order it to watch over the town and survey the skies to alert me if anything unusual approaches. As it flies away, I turn to my teammates again. This means there may be an attack coming soon, any moment actually, but we also know there is still time to prepare. We'll need to get you all in fighting shape by sunrise. I jump down into the canyon onto the nearest pathway that leads to a blue glowing portal. Come on. It's time for all of you to receive some major strength upgrades. I dungeon walk all of them back down to the 30th floor and share my absorption skill with each of them to allow my MCP absorption perk to make its full use. Staying within 100 meters of each of them, we circle around the outer ring of wyverns and slowly make our way into the center of the dungeon. With the use of temporary skills gained from my absorption skill, Monk is able to fly in the sky with us using water and earth magic from a few of the first wyverns killed. Fisher and Lydia let loose and reap the benefits of gaining millions of MCP after every kill, using their Red Hydra's buffs to speed up the training time and having Abby heal them every few minutes once they deactivate the Soul Energy perk and face the consequences of the debuffs. Whenever nearby flocks of monsters are killed, I dungeon walk everyone to more dense portions of dungeon where respawns take place to expedite the process. I find enemies and they constantly fight them, absorbing their energy and moving on to the next. Many thousands of MP in mana crystals are left behind after monsters dissolve without us nearby, but I always make it a point to retrieve element stones if they drop. Maria and Abby easily make it to the center of the dungeon without using any soul energy or chi. Monk also easily takes out his opponents. It takes nearly an hour to clear this floor and bring everyone up to level 750, but everyone has gained over 100 million MCP each and they're all revving to fight more. As we beat the 30th floor boss and wait to move on to the next floor, Monk and I have a long-awaited conversation. He reaches into his item box to pull out a large silver briefcase. I thank you for your note of warning before we left Valor City. I managed to bring over a large portion of our remaining chi pill supplies with us. I'm still looking forward to hearing the method you used to gather so much chi in such a short period of time. If just over 150 pills brought you this far, we will all have enough to reach a whole new level. He clicks open the case and I see hundreds of white pills inside, possibly over 1,000. Monk grabs a few out and hands some to Abby, Maria, and myself, then eats one himself before clasping the case shut and placing it back in his inventory. I nod and eat one of the pills as well, looking forward to filling my chi stores up to their max for the first time after ranking up again. As the hot energy fills my body, I respond to his earlier question. Of course, Ember and my body double are working on getting the preparations for my expedited cultivation method as we speak. Once you've all made it to a considerable strength by morning, you'll be ready. I want to add at least 500 million extra MCP to all of your base mana controls before you attempt my method. Understood. The corner of Monk's lip turns up, and the rush of chi from the pill he just consumed fills his body too. The tail has been illicitly lifted. Should you spot it on Amazon, report the violation. We're transported to the 31st floor, and my teammates begin farming levels and mana control again. The sensation of chi rushing into my body hits me too, but I don't feel quite as satiated as I usually do after a pill. Not even a drop of overflow comes out of my pores either. While my teammates zip across the dungeon, I decide to take another pill. After this one, my core finally hits its saturation point and the excess chi leaks out like usual. How interesting! I've grown enough to the point where one pill isn't enough to fill my core. I didn't know that was even possible. I consider that it must be a result of the natural energy control upgrade that occurred after my rank up. My capacity is now roughly 1.5 chi pills. Halfway through farming this floor, a flash of light and the teleportation of Ari and my double arrive nearby. The archer looks fully rested and ready to train as well. He floats in the air next to me and I fill him in on our goals here to train our way to the highest floor possible together. It is true I could just power level them myself by repeatedly sharing experience points with them by bringing my full team to a high-level boss room and clearing it myself. That wouldn't be great in the long term though. They need the combat training as well as the MCP that comes with killing mobs yourself using my absorption perk. Relying on their Red Hydra's buff for training now is a loophole I'd rather not have them get used to, because it will be used up in the future. Half of mine is gone and Maria's is completely used up. The permanent buff that was on her status before is no more. I witnessed it disappear myself. However, it's the fastest way to farm mana control and levels, so it has to be done. As Ari joins the team, red flashes of light fill the air, and we begin clearing more and more floors. Once everyone makes it within 5 levels of the floor boss each time, we move up to the next floor. It takes 3 more hours to clear the next 7 floors, bringing everyone near level 900 and adding close to 400 million additional MCP to their mana controls. If we were to go back down and farm these monsters again, the MCP gained would be much lower. The main reason for such a high gain is that they're consistently beating monsters at higher levels than their own, giving a higher percentage of mana control gained than weak mobs. The overwhelming power of the Red Hydra's soul energy has cut through everything in its way so far, but finally comes to a roadblock where its strength is not enough. On the 38th floor, my teammates face off against the giant armored worms that even gave my mana control trouble when I was training up here before ranking up. The crimson-covered energy blades don't do as much damage as I imagined they would. Fisher and Lydia meet their match, and only crack the outer shell of these beasts. No matter how many attacks they throw in solo fights, the rapid regeneration of the worms continues to keep the monsters alive. The two of them are easily able to get away. They're just not powerful enough to quickly take the monster out alone for training purposes. Together, they're able to take a single beast down in a few minutes in a brutal all-out battle, but it's clear we're making it to a crucial point in training where power leveling any further may not be possible in the short time constraints we have left. They alternate final blows to share the MCP and EXP gains. Ari, on the other hand, is able to use Red Hydra-imbued spirit arrows to pierce the flesh of the worms. His spirit energy has unique properties, and with the recent boost in mana control from the previous 8 floors, he's able to take the worms out alone in just a few hits when timed right. It makes me wonder how strong his demonic energy attacks would fare against these creatures. But it's understandable that he doesn't want to bring that volatile energy into a life and death battle like this just yet. Abby, Maria, and Monk waste no time on this floor after seeing the struggles of their teammates. This is the first battle where chi-imbued blades are necessary to take opponents out. Abby imbues her daggers with chi and slices through the worm's flesh and armor with ease. Maria's sword, hot with chi, can carve up these monsters like butter, and Monk uses a technique of fists imbued with energy that sends waves of chi through the worm's bodies and slowly cooks its insides, killing it in under 10 punches. I watch them train for another half hour until every worm in this dungeon is killed, and decide to move onto the next floor instead of waiting for the respawn. Once we make it to the 39th floor and take on the Minotaurs, I explain that this is the final floor they'll be able to train on, recounting some of my experiences on the 40th and 41st floor. Less than 10 monsters spawn up on this 39th floor every 30 minutes, so we take turns testing our skills just like the worms. Fisher and Lydia give it their all, sending red waves of water and ice at their level 966 opponent, ruthlessly stabbing and pounding the monster to the dungeon floor. They're pushed to their limits, and I can feel the massive amounts of Red Hydra's soul energy being used up in every attack, to the point where I hypothesize they are also draining its power away like Maria did, but to a much slower degree. It takes over 10 minutes, but in a combined effort, they defeat the elite Minotaur. Even after Abby heals them up, it's clear they've hit their limit and are very tired. Great job today. You two have gained over 500 million mana control each, improved just about 300 levels, and have defeated the strongest base-level monster in the labyrinth we'll be able to fight today. You may rest. They give satisfied smiles and are happy with their progress. I look forward to teaching them Chi in the future, but there's no time to bring them through the full training process now. I turn to the others. Now it's up to the rest of you to show off how far you've come. Ari manages to use his new and improved Crimson Spirit arrows to take out the Minotaur in just 3 direct hits to the head. Abby and Maria use Chi to slice their opponents' heads off before the battle even starts, and Monk does his signature attack pattern, punching the Minotaur from every angle and defeating it in 17 blows. I think about bringing them to face the lone mutant, but my double takes care of it before I get the chance to try. It's probably better that way. I bring all of my teammates to the boss room and let them take on the level 997 Minotaur boss together. With Chi-infused weapons and Red Hydra's soul energy filling the boss room, the massive Minotaur doesn't even get a chance to fight back. Abby, Maria, and Ari are the only ones who continue to fight. Fisher and Lydia rest while Monk and I watch with our arms crossed. Everyone in the boss room shares EXP from a boss kill, so whoever would like to fight has the option to. Curiously, we're all transported right back to outside the boss room once the transport magic activates. There's still a 30-day cooldown ticking down in the 40th floor, so no other challengers are welcome. The 41st is out of the question, even for me. I point back at the gray spinning boss room portal. Well, you've all made it this far. It's almost morning, so our first portion of training here has almost come to an end. You may feel like you're strong now, but I assure you the gap between these Minotaur's power and a Dark Guard is unimaginable. We all step through the boss room portal to fight another Minotaur at level 995. This is a great start, but we have a long way to go. We'll take on this boss a few more times to max out all of your levels. Then, for a few of us, the next stage of training will begin. Chapter 465. After clearing the boss room 18 times over the next 45 minutes, everyone in the group reaches level 994. We could most likely push everyone up to 997 if we farmed here for a few more hours, considering the Minotaur boss consistently appears at level 993 to 997. However, the minuscule gains aren't worth the extra time wasted right now. So, we leave the labyrinth back to the dungeons in the canyon. The sound of heavy stone being pulled in wooden carts hits our ears as the red-orange morning sun rises over the sand dunes of the desert. I float up out of the canyon and see the tired pack of grunts trudging my way. They look pale, hungry, thirsty, and on the edge of death's door. Some of them even look angry at the sight of me, letting out grunts and sneers. I sigh and order them to drink another vial each of suggestion elixir from my item storage to make all of them fall back in line. In my time away, the effects of this potion began wearing off. However, if I work them any harder, they may actually die. As that may be a fitting fate, their labor would still be useful in the future. I activate my earth magic and disperse all of the stone in the carts. Then, I look far off the stone trail about 50 meters near the canyon's edge and instantaneously form 5 small worker huts in a line out of stone with nothing more than hard beds and a single table in each of them. They have no windows and an open door, but will be more than enough to keep these men out of the heat and keep them from dying. I pull out rations of food, water, and more elixir from my item storage and evenly distribute them in the huts using telekinesis from a distance. I stand before the dazed grunts and point to the huts. Take your rest. Eat and drink up. Make sure to take your elixir once you wake up and await my orders when I return. They all let go of their carts and begin moving toward the makeshift housing. I move the carts off to opposite sides of the desert path in neat lines. They'll most likely be useful again at some point in the future. So there's no harm in leaving them out here for now. As my teammates follow behind and we approach the town, they have mixed thoughts on my punishment of the grunts. However, we take a slow and peaceful walk back to town on the stone path while I fill them in on the exact details of what happened in the town yesterday. After this, they're far more understanding of my harsh treatment. Abby and Ari are especially on board and think I should be pushing them harder than that. Even violent torture is on the table in their minds. Maria agrees with me almost entirely, believing that an eye for an eye is good punishment. Fisher, Lydia, and Monk don't care to make any comments on the matter. Once we get back into the small settlement, the topic of conversation shifts to what the end goal is with all of these people. They're from all over the Dark Continent and have no place to call home. They're stranded out here in Sector 2. As we walk through the doors of the empty guild hall and down into the mana-shielded bunker, I respond to this point. I'll be giving all of them a few options shortly. I can tell they still need their rest. I'll wait to make a speech to everyone until they're all awake. One by one, we walk down the spiral stairs, and right on cue, one of my doubles and Ember arrive from the sky. They too walk down and join us shortly after I open the middle wall and let everyone inside the mana-shielded base. Once the initial awestruck moment of admiring the room passes, my double takes its item storage contents out to place in the center of the empty half of the room. If you encounter this tale on Amazon, note that it's taken without the author's consent. Report it. 2 large isolation pods come out, and I immediately activate my craftsmanship skill along with other perception perks to examine them. One says, current dilation, 8.7005x. It must be the one set aside, using only one containment stone that Ari rested in before coming to train with us. The other reads out, current dilation, 46.9209x. My double turns to me, and I expect it to kill itself to share its memories with me, but it speaks up. Open up your storage. I have an item I need to transfer over carefully. I create a small white portal doing as it says. My double opens its spatial magic portal millimeters above mine, and a small white shimmering stone makes itself visible for a fraction of a second before falling inside. It was only detectable because I was watching so closely and carefully. My double places a finger on its forehead the next second and the memories of a second dungeon collapsing and that white stone falling from it just like the first rush into my mind. So the farming process is replicable. I whisper under my breath with a grin. I make a new double, and have him and Ember go off to continue making containment stones for later use. Then, I'm left alone with my teammates and 2 lightly humming isolation pods. One of them hums significantly louder than the other. It's clear there's a difference. I turn and point to them. This here is our next stage of training. They all look at the pods with different expressions on their faces. Most of you already know these are isolation pods. Machines that allow us to rest for 6 to 8 hours in a trance-like state filled with dense mana while only an hour goes by in the outside world. Monk's eyes open at the sound of that, but my other teammates have already witnessed their power. I continue all the same. They're made with very dense mana shielding that isolates us from the outside world. No sound or external energy is let in other than the energy and mass circulated through the core of the machine at its top. This also means whatever is inside stays inside. Of course, this seal isn't perfect, or it would act like my item storage system and no energy at all would ever leak out. But for my explanation, it gets the point across. I point to the weaker pod, then turn toward Maria, Abby, and Monk. When you take a chi pill, and its total contents exceed your core's limit, the excess leaks out and dissolves into the air. However, when confined in a semi-closed place like a room in the monastery, the walls can trap excess chi, and the absorption rate of energy gathering increases in speed and effectiveness. Monk speaks up at the weaker pod. So what you're saying is, I could gather chi in a super-saturated environment where no chi could leak out while also taking advantage of time moving faster by almost 10 times. I smile. Yes, precisely. 8 days in there would only be 1 day in the outside world. Plus, let's say you were to bring 100 chi pills inside. You would be swimming in dense chi, forcing your body to absorb it at a much faster rate than normal. The pod may be used up multiple times as well. Its charge should last upward of a few years before it totally runs out of energy. Then, I turn to the other pod that hums louder. This one is supercharged. We'll only get one shot at using it before it falls down to below 10x dilation. My guess is 36 to 48 hours is going to be its limit. The dilation is nearly 50x. It's 46.9 to be exact. Monk pulls out his silver briefcase and clicks it open. I continue talking as the sea of white pills come into view. Ember and my double are off working on getting more materials to supercharge another pod. However, getting enough to bring this weaker one up to such a high rate will take another 12 hours to do. We could cut that time in half and use the materials from a 5 to 6 hour farm and bring a pod up to 30-35x. Though, I believe it's most efficient to try to bring them closest to 50. Monk whispers to himself. That would be over 90 days. 3 full months of isolated cultivation in a supersaturated environment. In just 2 days here in the outside world. He looks up to me and responds. I see. So you'd like to go one at a time then? I nod. Well, we really don't have any other choice. The materials I use for these machines come from the 39th floor. The minotaurs only spawn in so fast. He thinks deeply to himself, then speaks up again. So then the best candidate for the first round would be Maria. I'm quite surprised at his response, but happy he sees my vision too. He's been wanting to try out my cultivation method all this time, and supplying all of us with precious resources, yet he still isn't jumping in to get first picks. With a satisfied smile, I respond. A very logical deduction. That was my first choice too. If danger is approaching, we need to get our strongest fighters with the highest potential for growth a chance to take advantage of these pods first. Everyone turns toward the blonde-haired hunter dressed in silver, white, and blue. She doesn't say a word at first, just looking down at the chi pills, then back up right at me. You're right. I can still see that soul energy blade of the Dark Guard fresh in my mind. If I want to be able to fight back against a monster like that, a major leap in power is necessary. She pauses again, but the determination in her gaze grows as she turns her head toward the strongest loudly humming isolation pod. I'll do it. Chapter 466. I take a few minutes to explain to Maria how I believe the gathering process in the pod will go. I give her some technique advice on long-term cultivation training. Isolation pods are a little bit different than my time in the Titan's domain, though. They make the user slip into a calming and relaxing state, making it easier to channel energy, float in place, think through tough problems, or even sleep for prolonged periods of time. It truly is the ideal environment for this type of training. I'm eager to try myself, but I'm happy to see Maria take the first shot at it. Considering the amount of chi on hand, and the smaller enclosed environment that will be testing the process in, the chi absorption rate may actually be more efficient than in the Titan's domain. Meanwhile, Monk begins to separate the chi pills into even piles on the center table of the room. I finish transferring enough food, water, and comfort supplies to Maria, and we all turn back to Monk as he separated the white pills into 5 piles. Then, he takes out smaller silver containers and places them inside each of them for easier storage. There are 1,688 pills. I made 4 groups of 300 for us chi users to take full advantage of, then 488 leftover pills to utilize for battle and further training for non-chi users. Monk points to Ari, Fisher, and Lydia. While Maria gathers chi, Ember prepares the next pod, and you deal with the waking townspeople. I can awaken and begin to train these 3 with chi. He looks around the room. This is a closed-off and sturdy enough environment to go through the awakening and beginning stages of their development. At his words, I use telekinesis and move the isolation pods to the furthest side of the room to give way for maximum open space in the center area. Then speak up again. The mana shielding won't affect their training? One of the perks of the monastery is that the only energy available to use is chi. It may be tempting or distracting with all this excess mana in the air. He reaches into his item box and pulls out another silver briefcase, but this one is full of black bars of stone that look just like the monastery walls, and identical to the small bar he gifted me with my first set of chi pills. They'll be isolated from mana while training as well. Their mana control allowance is off the charts after the training in the labyrinth we just went through, meaning their aptitude for learning chi will be heightened too. All three of them will have the basics down by nightfall. However, for intense combat, it'll be a few days before they'll really be ready. I think the first wave of whatever comes our way is going to need to be handled by the four of us who already wield chi. He turns to Ari. However, I can tell you've already been partially exposed. Your learning curve may be much quicker. Only some time and testing will make it known. Maria stands in front of the pod with a determined stare at the back of the room. At the same time, I begin to sense hundreds of people moving around on the surface above us now, telling me pretty much everyone in the town has woken up from their long night of rest. All right, the preparations are complete. It's now or never. Every minute wasted thinking about it is almost an hour gone inside the pod. It's been almost 16 hours since I defeated the 7th-ranked Dark Guard, and just over 6 since you all got away from the 5th. They could be arriving 10 seconds from now. 10 minutes, 10 hours, or 10 days. Whenever it may be, we need to be as ready as we can to fight. Maria turns around and walks toward the center table, then grabs a silver casing with 300 pills inside. You're right, let's do this. I'm ready. I smile and take a casing with 300 pills off the table myself, then reply, following her over to the pod and viewing all of the dilation settings and timer numbers while she walks inside. There's a very intense wave of dense and pure mana that pours out when the door is opened, and it looks like there's an endless white void inside the pod. It's on a whole different level than the 6-7X dilation pods I witnessed back at the Galeheart Tower. The pod is set to open back up automatically in 48 hours but can be opened from the inside at any time. As a mythic grade craftsman, I also have an override function to open the door from the outside if need be, but I'm hoping I won't have to use that option. It would distract her isolated cultivation and waste valuable chi trapped inside. Maria looks at me as the door slowly closes. I'll come back stronger soon. Protect everyone while I'm gone, Jay. I will. Click. The pod closes and a 48-hour countdown timer starts on the top of the pod. Monk begins explaining the basics of chi to Ari, Fisher, and Lydia. So I walk over to Abby. This content has been unlawfully taken from Royal Road. Report any instances of this story if found elsewhere. All right, I'm going to go confront the townspeople now. You can come and help if you'd like. With all my body doubles busy, I'm going to need a hand. She shrugs while taking her silver casing of chi pills off the table and following me as I walk up the spiral stairs. Sure. Before we hit the surface, I use my concealment abilities to turn back into the flaming man that saved every group of refugees here. On top of it, I mask my presence with a dense chi barrier to make sure I don't overpower anyone's psyche by accident from walking by. I give Abby the option to use my conceal skill, but she decides to walk out of the empty guild hall in her unaltered form. To my surprise, there are quite a few people wandering the streets. Many are still inside the bedrooms that were made for them yesterday, but some are curious to see what is going on for themselves. I begin walking through the town on my way to the densest part of the housing area. People that see me on my way there have mixed expressions of thankfulness, awe, confusion, and fear. There's a wide mixture of people getting down on their knees to thank me, while others stand in shock without saying a word, then a few just run away screaming. My response to all of them is to meet me at the guild hall in an hour, that I have more food and water for all of them, and a very important announcement. I walk in and out of all the housing developments crafted by my double and the slave grunts last night, making sure every single person in the town knows that there is a meeting. Once I make my rounds, I circle back to the guild hall, and Abby asks a question. So, you'll be taking care of them for now, it seems. The burden isn't too heavy to bear? I feel bad that they're all stranded out here too. What's the long-term goal with everyone here? Start up a new town and have them help in working for the new Sector 2 trading company once we're in business. I nod, responding as we approach the empty guild hall entrance. Yeah, something like that. There's going to be a lot of useful positions these people can take on. However, I'd like to give them the choice. I detail my plans a little further with Abby and hear her simple critiques and feedback while a crowd begins to form all around the center square. Abby and I decide to float up to the guild's rooftop for a better view of the people approaching, and I wait the full hour like I promised before making a head count. 347 showed up, almost all of them. Not bad. I whisper under my breath. The chattering noises of villagers fill the streets. People are beginning to get antsy, and they're all clumping up on of the square in particular, closest to where I stand. I step off the roof and slowly float down toward them, then stop about 5 meters off the ground. Everyone stops talking, and their eyes stay fixated on the illusion of rippling black flames that give off no heat. I activate my screech skill, and use its special perk to project my voice throughout the entire town square, but keep the tone even and calm. Welcome all. I'm glad you came to hear what I have to say. All of the lingering chatters cease once my voice echoes through everyone's ears. First of all, you may call me the Flame Emperor. I will be taking over Sector 2 as its new leader, and my reign begins here. Again, no one speaks in the crowd, but some of the neutral faces from before turn to worry and fearful looks. To combat this, I continue. Fear not. I won't subject you all to mindless labor like your captors that I've disposed of. I am merely here to give you all a choice, and another shot at a fruitful and successful life. The gazes calm down and people begin to think about my words. I want to make a fair and peaceful settlement here. One where this guild hall behind us may give work to hunters that farm in the dungeons, and one where merchants and businessmen can trade those hunters' goods. I wish to see restaurants, community, and entertainment thrive. I want the people here to enjoy a life they thought was gone forever. Some of the dull gazes in the crowd begin to see a glimmer of hope in their eyes, while some more cynical thinkers try to determine what the catch in all of this must be. I am powerful and wealthy enough to support and protect many, or even all of you if you wish to stay in my growing settlement. Safe shelter, weekly food, water, and basic need supplies will be provided free of cost during our first few months of build-up. I will personally interview each and every one of you to find a suitable job and place where you fit in to help this town grow. Then, a scruffy man with a mean gaze yells out from the crowd in a sour tone. What's in it for you? How do we know we're not being saved from one slave labor camp and taken into another? All of that sounds too good to be true. A few crowd members begin to murmur and agree with him, while others complain that he's trying to ruin the only good chance they have. I think about raising this man up into the sky and burning him alive to prove a point, but the only point I'd be proving is his own, not mine. A little fear-induced loyalty is a good thing to possess as a leader, but too much may become a very negative trait quickly. So, instead, I just burst into a bigger illusion of flames and let under 0.5% of my intimidation perk's intensity bleed out of my chi barrier. It instantly suppresses the crowd's chatter, and they listen closely again. You're right. This does seem like an offer that benefits only one side. I see where you're coming from and hear your concerns. No one moves a muscle, and I let my chi barrier cover my body again so the intimidation aura stops leaking out. You all have two options. You may swear your loyalty to me, the Flame Emperor, as your leader and stay here under my protection and guidance for as long as you please. Or you may leave unharmed and with enough food, water, and money to survive a month on your own. I will make arrangements to drop you off in Solara if this is the path you wish to take. I leave the crowd in silence again, and murmurs, chatter, and conversation fill the air. I float down toward the crowd, and people move away, making a wide-open circle on the stone for me to land. Soon after, Abby floats down behind me, and I turn around to walk inside the guild hall. As the door opens and I walk through, I leave the crowd with a final remark. Once you've made up your mind, come inside the hall and meet with me one-on-one. Whatever your decision is, make sure it is final. If you attempt to deceive me, I will know, and you will face a punishment worse than death. The guild hall door shuts behind me, and I'm left in the empty octagonal room with Abby as the volume of chatter outside grows and grows. However, no one approaches the doors. They're all hesitant to come inside. Both Abby and I walk into the middle workspace, and I begin pulling large portions of non-perishable food out from my item storage, along with piles of silver and bronze coins that show the fire and dragon emblem on their sides. Before I can even finish sorting them, a familiar face bursts through the door. She points right at me with a single finger, and her light blue eyes show the same determination that they did at the moment she was resisting the elixir of suggestion from the deceased grunt named Finn. She yells out in a tone I can't tell apart from anger or excitement. "It's you. It's really you. You're the same guy from yesterday. I'm sure of it. Your flaming disguise can't fool me." Chapter 467. She takes a step closer to the glass window of the octagonal reception center and continues to speak in the same tone. "First of all, I thank you for saving me and everyone else that was captured by these horrible men. However, my eyes are sharper than anyone here. I'm not agreeing to any terms before you explain to me what kind of unique powers you're using and what you're really after in this city. Why did you save us?" I stare back at her as she confidently makes her way toward the table. Her tan skin and dark hair, cut short at the shoulders, contrast with the empty guild hall and white flooring. "You want the honest truth? I can answer your last question much more easily than the first. I saved you all purely by chance. I needed a resource-dense and highly secluded place to call my home base, and with the recent disappearance of this sector's leader, his old hideout and production town seemed to be the perfect place to take over. There just happened to be a gang of thieves and slave drivers inhabiting this town, and you all are lucky enough to have the option of working for me now, or going off back to your old lives." I pause for a moment but continue while activating my all-seeing eyes ability to scan her energy flow up close, while imbuing a small amount of chi around my eyes to see even further. My abilities that you ask of, on the other hand, I'm afraid I can't go into details about them to strangers. As I finish my sentence, I also finish my scan, and find that the same odd sensation of something more than mana in a light shade of bluish-white circulating throughout her body. It's most dense around her eyes and brain. She puts out a hand to shake in front of me by the gap in the glass. "Well then, my name's Luna. We're not strangers anymore, are we? Your power looks just like my old village leader's. I haven't seen anyone wield it since then." I don't shake her hand, because there's no deal being made here. And on top of that, there is no silent notification that rings when someone new has joined my Rising Emperor's domain. She doesn't trust me. I ponder how familiar her name sounds while giving a response. "Nice to meet you too, but my terms are mandatory. Pledge your loyalty to me as your leader if you'd like to stay in my city, or reject my offer and I'll bring you back to Solara to start a new life. It doesn't matter who you are or what powers you have. Trust and loyalty is the only thing I care about." So Luna was it? Wait, Luna. Once I say her name out loud, a story Ari told me earlier before his demonic energy training comes to mind, and her weird soul energy-like power starts to make sense to me. My eyes widen and I pose the only question I can think of. "Ari. You know Ari, don't you? The archer with spirit arrows." Another memory from the Grunt's conversation earlier when I was doing my surveillance of this town comes flashing back to me. They said that this woman was captured fleeing from a small village that was overrun by the Abyss in Sector 4. That sounds exactly like Ari's hometown backstory, and this woman's ability, name, and circumstances line up too perfectly to be a mere coincidence. She responds with widened eyes too. How do you know Ari?" Her face turns pale, and the life seems to drain out of her. What have you done to Ari? Who are you people?" Even now, Abby standing next to me begins to get a bit confused, but keeps herself from asking questions. The expression on Luna's face twists to anger and fear now, and I can tell she's nearing her breaking point. All of the stressors from whatever hardships she's been through the last few months are starting to take their toll, so I don't blame her for acting this way. My mention of Ari flicks some switch inside her, and whatever that may be, I'm not capable of dealing with it right now. I turn to Abby and whisper to her to bring Luna downstairs to meet Ari. It's been well over an hour, so the initial stages of their chi-based development is already complete. It may still be a lot to throw on him right now, but he's the most capable and knowledgeable one to handle the situation. I don't know the intricacies of their relationship in the past, but I'm sure he'll be happy to find someone from his village alive. This story has been unlawfully obtained without the author's consent. Report any appearances on Amazon. Understood. As Abby walks out of the center room and easily escorts Luna inside with a tight grip, I switch open the hatch and they walk down the spiral stairs. She resists slightly, but is in more of a dazed state, glaring at me while Abby guides her movements. I feel a bit sorry for not easing her into all of this, but she'll probably forgive me for the scare once she gets downstairs. A dense wave of chi flows out from the underground bunker, letting me know the others are hard at work. The two women dive into the dense white mist. Soon after, Abby returns to the surface without the young woman by her side. I shut the hatch and smile while seeing an image of Luna and Ari hugging each other tight in my mind's eye thanks to my enemy detection perk. Good, thank you. Abby responds. Seems like they really do know each other. I sensed an interesting aura coming off her too. Maybe she will be an asset to us in the future. I shrug. Time will tell. I trust Ari to explain things to her and fill in the picture. If he trusts her, then she's all right in my book. I'm interested in her power as well, but I don't have time to spend on her at the moment. The front door opens again after I say this, and 3 elder women come walking through. The moment their eyes hit mine, all of them drop down to their knees and begin praying in mumbles and rhythmic hums. Once a few seconds pass, I get a silent notification on my Rising Emperor's domain interface alerting me that I now have 11 members under my leadership. The women's statuses and geopoints immediately show up in my mind's eye as well. My heart races with excitement, and I whisper only loud enough for myself and Abby to hear. Now this is more like it. I speak up, reading their names from my interface at the top of each of their status screens. Rise, Isabel, Charlotte, and Harper. Your praises have been heard. I accept you into my settlement and would love to hear more about you. They all hold their heads down to the floor for a moment longer, then look up at me with stars in their eyes, overjoyed that I knew their names before even asking. The women walk over and I interview them quickly with Abby and begin to explain their potential futures. I give each of them enough food, water, and sanitary supplies to last far longer than a week. Along with this, they each get 2 silver and 10 bronze coins with the Flame Emperor's markings on them. You will receive care like this every week from now on until the town is thriving and self-sufficient. In a few months, I will reassess the situation and continue aid if needed. Please, do seek comfort in the temporary housing I've provided you yesterday, and no larger residences will be built in the near future. They gladly accept my gifts and treat the coins as if they're prized possessions. I welcome you to the Crimson City. I promise to protect you as long as your loyalty to me as your leader remains. The women walk out of the opposite side of the building with starry eyes and religious-like bliss. This is what I'd expect from some people that are saved from the depths of despair by a man with absolute power. But I'm relieved to see not everyone is so far out in a delusional trance like them. The next man and woman that enter through the front door are holding hands tightly, looking at me with skeptical stares. The man speaks up as they approach the glass window. Sir, I thank you for saving all of us from a terrible fate, but I do not wish to stay here. My wife and I have friends and family we were ripped away from back in Sector 4. You said you have a way to get back to Solara? If we could get back to our old life and community, we would be forever in your debt. I nod, and Abby helps me hand them supplies while I dig through the unmarked coins that I decided not to turn into the Flame Emperor's currency. We hand them their packages of supplies and enough money for a few inns and entertainment for about a month. Then I respond. Of course, take these as a parting gift. Stay behind in the square. Once the crowds die down and I've interviewed everyone, I'll make sure to arrange your travel plans. The man gives me a kind smile, hiding his tiredness and built-up mental pain. Then his wife gives me a thankful look as well, and they leave through the back door and wait in the square. Over the next hour and a half, more and more people come through the front doors and meet with me to confess their loyalty or tell their story and ask for some way to get back home. Many were ripped away from their family and friends, kidnapped or swindled into taking the elixir, and subjected to torture and forced labor for months. Over half of the crowd wants a ride home, which was expected. Some are from Sector 1 and others even from Sector 3, but I only have easily accessible dungeon walker points in the dungeon hub of Solara in Sector 4, so my plan is to bring them all there and have them walk out pretending to be rogue adventurers. Letting a few dozen through at rush hour tonight separated throughout all of the dungeons will be perfect. Solara is the largest city in the Dark Continent population-wise, so it's the best place for all of them to go anyway. The other half either worship me like a godlike savior, or are level-headed hunters, business-minded young men and women, or hard workers that have been ripped from their old lives, but have no money or connections worth going back to. So, many of them see living here as an adventure and an opportunity to start over and grow in a community of people that all share a common past. I hand out more and more of the Flame Emperor's coins, flooding the townspeople with silver and bronze. They have nothing to buy right now as I'm giving away everything for free, but I assume they'll begin trading or gambling amongst themselves with the coins and get used to their value as I continue to flood the economy with more every week. As the crowd begins nearing its end, and only 50 or so people are left standing outside to meet with me, a notification pops up after another man pledges his loyalty to me and walks off with his care package. Congratulations! Rising Emperor's domain milestone reached. 100 out of 100 new party members added. New perk unlocked. Power holder. A new rush of information hits my subconscious, and I can't believe my eyes once I realize what the perks of this new milestone allow me to do. This will make me unstoppable. Chapter 468. New perk unlocked. Power holder. Info. The caster may borrow 10% of all base stat points and mana control efficiency from party members under the allegiance of the Rising Emperor. In addition, 10% of the caster's base stat points and mana control may be temporarily distributed to any party members under the allegiance of the Rising Emperor. The caster may only borrow or share exclusively. Both actions cannot be performed simultaneously. Members affected by this perk must be within range of the Rising Emperor's domain. My eyes widen, and I'm left in awe reading this new ability. Up until now, it really only helped my teammates to gain new strength and temporarily use my skills when close to me. Finally, I'll be able to reap the benefits of this perk myself, and in an incredible way. Even though most of the people that swore allegiance to me are fairly low-leveled, some below level 50, and a majority below level 150, their average is still around level 100 considering the outliers. With an average base stat increase per level of roughly 2 points, a level 100 would have the base stats on strength, defense, speed, agility, and mental strength at roughly 200 each. Temporarily borrowing 10% of each of these may only raise my own stats by 20 points each. But the fact that I now have 100 people loyal to me means I can activate this perk and use all of their power whenever I wish. That would be a 2,000-point base stat increase. Adding the hundreds of percent increases from my gear that stack upon my base rating, I just unlocked a new temporary buff that raises all of my stats to a tremendous degree with unlimited potential, as long as I continue bringing more people into my settlement. The only downsides I can think of are that it can only be activated when people are within my domain's range, which is just over 100 meters in diameter at the moment. As my mana control and level grow, this will as well. On top of that, I'm able to borrow mana control efficiency from my party members too. The only ones I'd really be benefiting any noticeable change from would be my core teammates. Still, 10% from each of them may mean the difference between life and death in a future battle. I nod to myself, reading over the perk's description a few more times and confirm it's really all exactly how I see it, then mutter to myself, "Very good, now let's continue." A new pair of middle-aged working men walk through the front door and I finish the sorting process for the final 50 people that come in from the square. The final numbers end up at roughly 130 wanting to stay and live in this town. The majority of them took their care packages and thankfully made their way back to the housing I provided for them until further notice. Just under 200 are lined up around the square with all their belongings in hand, ready to leave, while a small group of 30 to 40 still wait inside the guild hall as undecided. While some have interesting circumstances and propositions, I let them step aside to talk to them later. Others are quite literally undecided. Their indecisiveness wouldn't allow them to choose. They would neither declare loyalty to me, nor tell me straight to my face that they want to leave and go back to Solara. I understand their situation may be tough. Shock and trauma may be halting their abilities to react to my offering. However, I have no room in my heart and mind for people's feelings right now. We're on the verge of war, and I'm giving them an opportunity with a simple choice. Stay or leave. If they haven't come up with an answer by the time I'm done with the line, they're packing up and leaving with everyone else. I let out a sigh and turned to Abby while pointing toward the small crowd of undecided. All right, bring over more supplies. It's time to wrap this up. We walk over to the people that are split evenly into 3 groups. 2 of the groups are the cases of interesting individuals I wanted to have another chat with, while the larger group are the undecideds I need to deal with now. I turn to them and speak up. All right, I gave you more time to think. All you have to do is give me a simple response. Yes, you want to stay and follow me as your leader. Or no, you'd like to leave and have a free trip back to Solara with some money and food as a parting gift. As I stop talking, none of them want to speak up. Most shuffle around, looking at the floor or waiting for another to step forward first. So, I speak up again while stepping forward and pointing to the closest young man I see. Unauthorized usage. This tale is on Amazon without the author's consent. Report any sightings. You're first. He looks up at me, and I speak to him like I'm speaking to all of them. Just yes or no. Even if you leave now, I'll always accept you back here if you'd like to swear loyalty to me in the future. This isn't a permanent deal, just one I need to make now for efficiency. He nods to himself, then looks up at me with a scared look in his eyes, and responds after a loud gulp. Okay, I'll stay. I swear my loyalty to you as a dash. While he speaks, red mist oozes from him, only in my vision as my lie detector skill senses untruthfulness in his words. Before he even finishes his sentence, something twists and changes in his face, and he reaches into his back pocket to pull out a dagger and thrusts it toward me. In my advanced perception, I saw this coming and could have dealt with him before the blade came out of his pocket, but I want to make an example out of his actions for everyone to see. So, I allow him to foolishly thrust his hand into the side of my maximum density chi barrier, gripping a silver blade tightly. He lets out a yell as the metal melts along with half of his arm as it's met with no resistance from my barrier, but instantly disintegrates his arm down to the elbow. His eyes open wide and his yells grow louder as he falls backward in pain, and my expression doesn't change at all. I let out a sigh and point a finger, using telekinesis to lift him off the ground to hover in front of me. I gave you one rule to follow and you managed to break it. Do not attempt to deceive me. It is impossible. I put up a dome of mana shielding around only us 2 for a split second and release a wave of unprotected intimidation straight into his psyche. The man foams at the mouth and passes out on the spot. Then I drop him to the floor. I turn to Abby and use telepathy to talk to her. Could you please bring him out to the huts near the canyon for me? Restore that arm and feed him a vial of elixir. Have him wait for me to return before he does anything else. She picks up the passed-out man and walks out the door, and I turn back to the undecideds again. It is a simple yes or no. Do not lie or attempt to deceive me. If you don't know what to say, just say you don't know. I will decide for you. After my display, they all begin to answer and be much more cooperative. 13 of them decide to leave, and 8 of them swear loyalty to me and want to stay. I sort their gear out myself and have them leave the guild hall so I can finally get to the interesting folks I wanted to talk to initially. I would say that coincidentally worked out in my favor, but I felt his animosity for me from the start, and his hand kept tapping his back pocket every time he looked at me from afar. I was guessing something like that would happen and was happy to make an example out of that man. Thank you all for waiting. I hope the little incident there didn't frighten you. I do not have a high tolerance for crazy people. Please make logical decisions and speak your opinions out loud. As long as you tell the truth, there will never be an issue. I turn to the remaining 2 groups of men and women left in the guild hall. One has 7 people in it. Their spokesperson is short but looks very strong with a thick dark beard and mustache. All of them wear manual labor uniforms and carry enchanted tools like hammers and fine-tuned drills. He's the first that steps forward with both hands on his waist and a smile across his face. Not at all, Sir Flame Emperor. You made the rules, and he broke them to the highest degree. I see nothing wrong with your actions. I nod and turn to him directly, and he continues. The name is Maurice. Maurice Abelman. This is what's left of my team. I used to run an architecture firm, building small-scale projects and traveling town to town in Sector 4 right outside Solara. The only reason neither me nor my team have decided to swear our loyalty to you is that we do not know what that entails. As you must envision this town as a city that will grow, I know you need an advanced team of builders to work on the woodwork, sewer systems, and mana-based power lines. I'm sure my team could handle this if you give us the chance. But we're skeptical of another incident after being deceived by the leader of the Green Mist. He lets out a sigh and steps back to hear my response. I take a moment to ponder his claim, doing a full appraisal of him and his men and women workers. Most of them have extreme strength and body-hardening skills to help with the heavy lifting and burdens of the job, but the young man to his right side has an earth-summoning skill and their leader has a very interesting status. LV 114 Structural Perception Special Grade. I dig deeper into his status using my all-seeing eye, and it shows that this skill works similarly to my swordsmanship skill's legendary perk. It seems he's able to see and manifest images of advanced systems and structures to see and test how they would work best with moving parts added to them over time by letting his subconscious take over and show him the way. My guess is it is a skill usually used for craftsmen making small items, or even may be useful for a combat magic user to use to bend mana and matter to their will to create more efficient spells. However, it is a truly unique use of this skill to use it for advanced architecture. Based on his backstory, it seems he's never worked on any major projects, and only built what small villages needed to get by and survive. I nod and reply with a smile only visible beneath my flaming mask. So, you'd like to use my growing city as a sandbox to create your dream architectural creations? But wish to not be held back by the potential constraints of what submitting to me as a leader may entail. The corner of the man's lip turns up as well, and he nods. You can see my vision, can't you? I reply just as Abby walks through the back door of the guild hall again. I believe I do, and I believe you see mine. I wish to create an empire greater than anything the Dark Continent has ever seen. One that, in time, can rival the Association. I will grow the funds, and I will grow in power. However, this will only work if every member that lives in this city serves me, and only me as their leader. Treat me with honesty and respect, and that will be what is given back to every member of this community. Nothing more, nothing less. His eyes sparkle, and another string of silent notifications ring in my inner ear. All 7 of them get down on one knee after Maurice, their leader, and pledge loyalty to me. As soon as they get back up, I ask Abby to get them their coins and basic supplies. Then, the voice of the second group leader hits my ear, and I turn to see a tall man in a rogue hunter's uniform with 5 beautiful women behind him in tight, colorful clothing. He takes a step forward with a white smile, chiseled jaw, blonde hair, and piercing green eyes. Nice to meet you. The name's Dan Stryker. I plan on being your number 1 competition. Chapter 469. I try not to laugh, scanning his status to see he's level 219 and has one of those rare team buff skills that increases everyone's strength stat by 25% in a small radius for a limited amount of time. It's a great skill to have for helping newbies learn to fight, and beneficial to hunting squads that farm dungeons, but it's nothing special. However, he's very charismatic and confident. He said he had a business proposition for me when I met him and his girlfriends in line earlier without a drop of fear, so I decided to let him pique my interest. I raise an eyebrow and reply, "My competition? Huh? Explain." Despite his cheerful attitude and the charismatic stance he holds, with women standing behind him holding his arms and back, green mist oozes from his body, letting my lie detector reading tell me that he's 100% serious about what he just said. The man speaks up again. That's right. I come from Sector 1. I used to be the manager and head promoter of a small mercenary pub in the entertainment district of one of the settlements a few hundred kilometers away from Valor City. I perk up at the sound of this but still don't know exactly what he means by him being my number 1 competition. He continues before I get the chance to ask. I see you're going to have a guild hall here to buy and sell goods from the nearby dungeons, right? I nod. That's right. Stable prices will be placed on materials from the dungeons necessary for my craftsmen to conduct trade with other sectors and regions in bulk quantities. He nods with his bright white smile still plastered across his face. Exactly what I thought. So think about this. What will you do with the items that are useless for the bulk order crafts you need? Who will you be hiring to form training parties that help newbies level up? Where can people go to if they want to buy and sell their goods outside the guild run by the government of this city? Something like a mercenary bar or a guild hall ran by the locals. Imagine a place where anyone can post a quest and name their price, and anyone strong enough to carry it out first can collect the bounty. He smiles even wider as I think about his words. This man has a pretty solid point. While having my guild hall be the sole place for hunters to buy and sell goods from the dungeons would be very profitable and keep the supply and demand prices in my control entirely, it could lead to problems down the line. Villagers having the option to trade amongst themselves, even buy and sell the same items in another place, is a good way to make the people feel less smothered by my all-powerful hand. Even if they are using my coins, and living in a society that I'm building, people need the illusion of choice. Just like the association allows private guilds to function in society while their organization still reigns supreme. I nod and reply, "Fine by me, but while you're functioning in my city, you will still have to pay a tax to the city from every quest reward. We will iron out the exact percentages and details with every new business in further town meetings. I have no problem with private guilds and mercenary forces. I fully support them, but you all still must pledge your loyalty to me as this city's leader if you wish to stay and do business. No matters of deceptions or lies will ever be tolerated." Without any hesitation at all, the man bows in place and the 5 women behind him bow their heads as well. "Of course, with you as our leader, I see my dreams of becoming the greatest mercenary guild owner coming true." He mumbles under his breath to the women around him one by one. "Then we can start up some restaurants, some late-night clubs, and that cat cafe you always wanted to run, and sure, even a salon for you too. This is it. I'll be the business mogul that brings life to the entertainment district in this city." I chuckle to myself as he's a bit scatterbrained about his end goals, but has great ideas to go with it. Plus, the energy, ambition, and charisma that he has may actually be enough to make it all happen. I see no problem with him starting up some private businesses and attempting to bring life to the entertainment side of this city. This tale has been unlawfully lifted from Royal Road. If you spot it on Amazon, please report it. Very well. Let's get you all situated. Then I'll be on my way. I have to arrange the travel for all of those that wish to leave the city. So, until then, I turn to Abby and give her a detailed plan of what I'd like done while I'm away, bringing these men and women to Solara. She writes everything down on a notepad and happily nods. That's quite the undertaking, but it makes sense. Got it, I'll get it done. Great. I wave her off and walk out the door to meet with the large crowd of people while she begins to talk with Maurice and Dan inside the guild hall. The chatter is getting pretty loud, and I can tell everyone is getting quite antsy standing out here in the hot sun. So I float above all of them and use my screech perk to make my voice heard among the whole crowd. "All right, everyone, follow me. Your ride back to Solara is this way." I float above them and through the streets slowly, making my way toward the road that was built last night. The crowd slowly follows and chatters amongst themselves as we make our way through the desert and to the edge of the canyon. It takes just under half an hour to get everyone here, and there are some stragglers, but eventually, everyone gathers around and I speak again. "All right, split into groups of 5 to 10 maximum. I'll be using a teleportation technique that only works in dungeons on each of you in small groups. Don't ask any more questions, that is all you need to know. I will lead you all to the Solaran Dungeon Hub. The transfer will be instant, but this process will take a while as I can only bring a few people along at a time. I watch them all split into groups and line up on the road in roughly 30 separate groups, varying from 5 to 10 members just as I asked. The first group steps forward, and I activate telekinesis to make them all float in the air. Perfect, I'll be back very soon. I jump off the edge of the canyon and float down to the nearest dungeon portal with everyone behind me. Not saying another word, I jump through and instantly dungeon walk all of us right in front of one of the E-grade dungeon portals in Solara. The group of men and women look back at me with confused stares as the dungeon environment changed before their eyes. So I speak up. It's already over. Walk through that portal and you'll be back in Solara. Their eyes widen. Some thank me again many times, while others hurriedly jump through without another word. I wait a few seconds before all of them are gone, then activate stealth and follow them through. Each of them leaves through the dungeon gate and out into the crowded square without any of the guards batting an eye. I walk past the guards too, and quickly slip in and out of every dungeon I can that has an open door to set more dungeon walker points. Luckily, it's midday now and most hunters here are coming in and out of the square for lunch, rest, late starts, and even early end-of-day loot cash-ins. It's the perfect time to slip a few more people through unnoticed. I dungeon walk back to the canyon in Sector 2 and begin bringing every team through one by one to randomized gates. I leave a few minutes in between every teleport just to watch and make sure they make it out of the square and into the city all right before coming back. After another 2 hours pass, I finally finish up with every team and am left staring at an empty road back to my town. Well, I'm glad that's over with. I let out a sigh and turn to the workers' huts off in the distance where there are now 21 people waiting in a trance-like state for my orders. There's nothing I need to have done in the immediate future, but I'm sure that team of builders wouldn't mind some free labor in the coming days. I'm sure the people that were taken advantage of will enjoy making their past captors suffer the same fate. However, once these initial projects are done, and people's immediate revenge is satisfied, we'll need to make a voting system and I'll establish clear and written-out rules to follow along with their punishments if broken. A new growing society like this needs order eventually. It can't always be ruled with chaos wielded by the strongest hand. With this in mind, I make my way back to the town to see Abby waiting for me inside the guild hall with a stack of papers. I got what you asked for. You were right about Maurice, all right. He's an architectural genius. Look at these. I make my way over to her and walk inside the center room of the guild hall to begin sifting through the many papers. They consist of intricate systems using the underground streams from the canyon to create a clean drinking water system, a sewer system that flows out the opposite direction, a power grid with multiple sources of energy that need to be supplied with mana crystals, and many other intricate designs. I see zoning layouts for residential areas, small and large shopping areas, food markets and restaurants, as well as an entertainment district with land plots and their estimated pricings for if in the future I'd like to sell segments of the city to vendors. Every sheet of paper comes with more and more plans for expansion that detail how these systems need to be tweaked and built upon when larger populations come to the city. It's all outlined in far more detail than I imagined. My grin can't be hidden as I murmur to myself, shuffling through more and more of the pages. This is perfect. Exactly what I wanted and more. I get to the last page and a list of materials is laid out consisting of massive amounts of heavy brick, lumber, metal, cement, and various conductors and unique building materials. The quantities needed for each material are in the thousands, and I can tell this won't be cheap. Hundreds of gold will be the price in bulk wholesale even at its lower end. However, I specifically told Abby to let Maurice run wild and not hold back, as long as it's for the good of the city. This will do. I grab the paper with all the necessary building materials for the first stage of construction and begin to walk out the door again. Thanks, Abby. You were a great help this morning. Keep an eye on the city while I go put in an order for these construction materials. There's only one place I know that would have these kinds of goods available in such high quantities. Chapter 470. Abby replies, "Of course. Good luck." I walk out the door again, but this time, I use extreme speed and wind magic to quickly fly through the desert back to the canyon. Once I set foot in a dungeon, I teleport to the dungeon hub in Vice City. I change my face and appearance to that of a D-grade hunter with average gear and allow my chi barrier to emit the tiniest amount of mana, making it seem like I'm just at the cusp of level 250. My new appearance is that of a very strong hunter, but nothing crazy enough to turn any important heads. With a confident stroll, I walk out of the gates and make my way to a part of town I've never been to before. It's a sectioned-off corner of the city near the forest region that has many factories and processing plants. They create many non-magical materials and ship goods to various regions all over the main continent. Some of them still run on electricity. It's the remnants of the old world before the Great War, and before dungeons began popping up in this world. The lumber, stone, and metal industries are still thriving, which most of the world relies on for the infrastructure and construction of cities and for maintaining roads and buildings. While over 50% of this district is just warehouses filled with raw materials ready for processing and sold in bulk orders, the other half are the plants that process, ready, and ship these orders out. A very tiny percent of tall buildings are lined up near the border of the factory district and the main city. They act as a bit of a smog guard for the lower-income housing and forest region nearby. These large buildings house offices for company managers, ensuring everything continues to move smoothly in the processing plants and warehouses. I walk up to the busiest office building I can find with large white lettering on the side of its building spelling out Unity Building Supply Company in bold print. As I walk into the front office, many men in suits wait in the lobby. After a quick inspection and appraisal, I find none of them are leveled high at all. Some aren't even awakened, to my utter surprise. They're level 0 with no skills or systems, meaning they've never even killed a monster in their life. It's been quite a while since I've seen people like this. The smell of cigarettes fills the air, and the old carpeted floor is soft beneath my feet. Outside, the sounds of saws cutting wood and metal being clanged fill my ears. The warm yellow light of the room is a change of pace for me too, as I'm used to very bright white man-imbued lighting. I walk forward and approach the man at the back of the room behind the wooden lobby desk. His name, on a small golden triangle propped up on his desk, reads, Leonard Mason III. He speaks up while looking me in the eyes with a steady and professional gaze. Welcome to the Unity Building Supply Company. What can I help you with today, sir? I feel the glares on my back from the businessmen waiting patiently in the lobby behind me, but ignore it and just continue to do what I came here for, placing the sheet of paper with all the supplies I need on the table in front of the man. I'm sure there's a normal process to place orders through your company, but I'm in quite the rush, so I decided to come in and ask in person. Is there any way I can place this order, pay in full, and walk out of here with these supplies today? The man nods and takes the sheet of paper from me, pulling a pair of glasses from his shirt collar and placing them on to read it. I'm sorry to tell you, sir, we don't take orders in this manner. Our company has very strict. He stops mid-sentence once he begins reading the page. His eyes widen as they move back and forth all the way down the sheet of paper. Then he looks back up at me. You said you're able to pay in full today? I smile and nod, reaching into my item storage beneath my fake hunter's gear and pull out a few shiny platinum bars for only him to see. Of course, I'm ready to pay right now if you'll confirm you can fulfill the order. His gaze tightens on the bars of metal. Then he realizes what material they're made from and immediately rings a bell at the side of his desk. An older woman about the same age as him comes out from a door at the other side of the room. If you spot this narrative on Amazon, know that it has been stolen. Report the violation. Tracy, could you bring this young man up to meet the boss? He has an urgent order that needs to be taken care of. We may have a way to meet our quota this month after all. Yes, will do. She looks at me and motions for me to follow. Right this way. The elevator at the back of the room opens, and I thank the lobbyman while following the older woman into the cramped elevator. It shakes as it slowly rises up 8 floors before reaching the top. Then a large office with a beautiful handcrafted wooden desk sits at the back of it. A tall office chair is behind it, and the walls surrounding the room are lined with hundreds, if not thousands, of books, maps, and stacks of paper. There are 2 large windows on opposite sides of the room. One that faces the factories is shut, while the window that has a view of the forest and the rest of Vice City is open, and a cool breeze comes in. A very old man, seemingly on the edge of death, sits behind this desk in the chair, and a name tag is displayed on the table. Leonard Mason II. He lifts his head up while putting out a cigarette in a small dish full with other bright orange butts. I smile and walk forward as the woman speaks to introduce me. This young man has an urgent order to be filled out. Leo told me to send him up. She backs up into the elevator again and leaves to go back downstairs. The man looks at me with disgust as I walk forward and speaks in a raspy breath. You're a contracted hunter, aren't you? No fancy get-up today? You are with the association, right? I told you we'd get everything settled by the end of the month. What do you want, kid? I smile and shake my head. No, no. Trust me. I'm as far from the association as you can fathom. I don't know what business you have with them, and quite honestly, I don't care to find out. I just need a large amount of building supplies and assumed your company was the best place to ask on short notice. I stop in front of his desk and give him the sheet of paper just like I did what I can presume to be his son down in the lobby. He does the same exact action, taking the list from me and attempting to read it while taking his glasses from his collar and placing them on his face. Well, if my boy sent you up here, it must be for a good reason. Let me see here. His eyes track the page up and down while he mumbles to himself in a grumpy tone with words I can't understand. I'm left to wait in my own thoughts while he checks his papers and looks at my own, writing down things on a new sheet right by its side. Finally, after a few minutes, he gets to the bottom, then looks back up at me. Well, first things first, I'll tell you the price. Then we can see if this conversation will even continue. You're looking at 558 gold, 62 silver, and 19 bronze in raw materials here. To get them moved from warehouses into a general location, plus processing some of the more unique items, it's going to be more. Plus, our company and city tax will be added on top of that too. He scribbles down more on a small piece of paper, adding numbers up before looking up at me again. We're looking at just over 604 gold, but I'll round it down and call it 600 even. With an order of this size, we'll take care of the loading fees for free if you bring your own trucks over or have item boxes big enough to carry a small town's worth of building materials like this here. I nod and think to myself if asking for the exact pricing on each item to haggle a few gold is even worth my time right now. But the old man breaks my train of thought. So, you still interested, kid? This is a serious order. I don't have time to play around. I look up at him and respond, pulling 6 platinum bars from my item storage and placing them on his desk lightly. Even though I'm careful, the bar's weight still makes a loud thud that echoes through the room for a moment. Yeah, let's do it. What's the fastest you all can process this order? I'd like to get things moving as soon as possible. The old man's eyes don't open wide with surprise like his son's. He just nods and pulls out a scale from beneath his desk, then starts weighing the bars one by one. Exactly 600 gold worth of platinum, it seems. How interesting. It's not every day I see this kind of metal used as payment in the Vice region. A grin shows on his face. Where are you from, kid? Who do you work for? With supplies like this, you could build an entire city ready to house a few hundred people. I'd like to ask for your ID, or at least a name I can write down here on our balance sheets, as that's company policy for any and all orders. I place a 7th platinum bar on the table before he finishes his sentence. He changes his tone. Well, it looks like I have all of the identification I need. I smile and take a step back. I thank you for being considerate of my privacy needs. I hope this will be the first of many purchases I make with you all. So, I'll ask again, when is the earliest I'll be able to pick these goods up? As these words leave my lips, a rush of memories hit my subconscious, and I see my body double get slaughtered far out in the desert. I can't help but to exhale with surprise and step back while more visuals rush into my mind. A massive brown bird with a wingspan of at least 10 meters soars through the sky, rippling with dense wind magic and soul energy. On its back, there is a black suit of armor, and they are flying high in the sky, coming from the same direction as Sector 1. My body double managed to confront them and get a clear visual before it's sliced into too many pieces to count by an invisible wind energy attack. The last thing it managed to see is a number 6 glowing bright orange on the underside of one of the large bird's wings. I shake my head and step forward, keeping my composure as I'm in the middle of a meeting. Sorry, go on. The man responds to my question as a bead of sweat drips down the side of my forehead, and I try to estimate how fast that bird was flying and how far away from the town my double was. We have all of these materials on site. We can have them processed and sorted by the end of the day if you'd like. I nod back to his response, but my mind is somewhere else, coming to the conclusion that however fast this bird is flying, I have no time to waste thinking about it any longer. My gaze turns to the open window at the back of his room, and I quickly reply, Alright, perfect. Get everything ready for me and I'll be back after sunset. I look forward to doing business with you, Mr. Mason. Leaving the old man with a curious look on his face, I run toward the window and jump out without saying another word. Chapter 471. The man doesn't get a chance to reply as I airstep toward the center of the city, activating my stealth skill and expanding my all-seeing eye to find the closest dungeon to my location right now. At my current speed, I'll get to the main hub in less than a few minutes, but the underground train ride to a nearby dungeon could be unpredictable, adding even a few more minutes to my travel time. Crossing downtown and going into the underground dungeon hub may be faster, but it will also take a few minutes too many. As I finish my scan of the city, I pinpoint one of the mana-shielded boxes containing a portal underground that connects to the main dungeon hub transport system. Seeing this, I make my decision to create a much faster route in. I focus on the center of an empty alleyway in a residential area and dive with a single outreached fist through the hard stone road. It crumbles and disintegrates instantly beneath the pressure of my chi and mana shielding, leaving a smooth circle in the ground, leading deep into the city's lower levels. I phase through the road and narrowly avoid important city infrastructure, but don't stop my momentum as I come in contact with one of the outer walls of a mana-shide protection barrier put in place to keep monsters out in case of breaks. It buzzes loudly and releases a large amount of mana as I break through. It all happens so fast that I don't bother to wait and watch what happens after I dive through the blue floating dungeon portal before me. Fractions of a second later, I'm flying out of the canyon in Sector 2. Rocketing toward the spot in the sky, I remember detecting the approaching dark guards. As I airstep through the sky, leaving a blue trail of extreme speed behind, I think to myself if they timed all this or if it was a coincidence that they attacked the only hour I was away from the city. All night I stayed up and watched the city, and in the morning I kept a keen eye out for any approaching guards. Thinking about it more doesn't get me anywhere though. The good thing is I made it in time to stop them from approaching before they made it to the town. Less than 5 kilometers away, I see them as clear as day. The sharp yellow-orange eyes of an enormous hawk-like bird, leaking orange energy behind it as it rides on a wave of invisible wind magic. I catch a glimpse of the underside of its wing again, and confirm it says the number 6, but do a full inspect and appraisal to know without any doubt, this is another dark guard infected by the curse of the Lich King. LV 1377. Active items. None. Active skills. None. Buffs. Curse of the Lich King. No items, no skills, and no other buffs show on its status, but I can feel that it's using wind magic. However, it's being powered by the soul energy within it, just like the 7th guard I fought before. This proves my theory further that when an entity is infected by the curse of the Lich King, every bit of their being is stripped away and granted new borrowed power to grow stronger under new rules. Old elements of the user's past abilities can be manifested artificially by using soul energy as its power source. This is a far different use of shared soul energy than the Red Hydra's buff I've used myself, or the Sun God's curse mark that I recall the 40th floor boss having. Both of these shared soul energy perks allow the user to retain their original buffs and skills, but the Lich King's soul energy works much differently, as my pulse of energy to read the large bird status and do a full body scan of it with my all-seeing eye comes back. The massive creature shifts its gaze toward me. I try to scan the armor standing on its back, but nothing comes back. Before I attempt to push my senses further, the hawk's trajectory shifts right toward me, and I hear a static-filled voice enter my head while the hawk stares me down and speeds up. I just killed you, pesky bug. I knew it wouldn't be that simple if the Dark One ordered us to finish this job personally. You cannot live. I will be the cause of your demise. This tale has been pilfered from Royal Road. If found on Amazon, kindly file a report. Before the static message stops, I already sense over 20 blades of invisible wind flying my way in all directions, creating a sphere of sharp mana blades closing in on me. I can see how my body double got trapped in such an attack. Every blade of wind here is denser and stronger than the soul energy armor of the ranked-up Colossal's final form. Pure mana alone would be useless trying to stop an attack like this. However, after my own recent rank up and increase in chi capacity and efficiency, these slow-moving blades of wind are both visible and easily blockable from my line of sight. I chuckle to myself and pull out my Wind Tyrant's dagger set from my item storage, separating the crimson blades imbued with wind magic into two parts and saturating them with chi to the point where they begin to leak white-hot energy with every fine movement I make. These kinds of attacks aren't even worth drawing my real sword. Bring it on! With a smile on my face, I begin gracefully dancing through the barrage of attacks, but use my legendary dagger mastery along with dual wielding to watch two threads of intent guide my movements. As the wind prison closes in, my blades break every slash at their weak points one by one, dancing through the sky toward the approaching hawk without slowing down my speed at all. In less than a second, all 24 of its attacks disperse into nothing more than energy in the air, and there's a sparkling display of white chi dissolving soul energy as it drips from my blades. The enormous hawk's eyes sharpen, and I see the number 6 glow on its wing far brighter than before. Then, the telepathy channel we were just linked to buzzes with static and cuts out as the bird speaks to the suit of armor on its back. But their words are a mystery to me. The armor nods once, and jumps off the creature's back, floating in the air right where it jumped, staying back while the monstrous bird dives toward me. Another invisible sphere of wind magic attacks me from all around, but I perform the same graceful dance to dodge and disperse all of its incoming strikes. The moment I do, the bird sends off another attack and it ends just the same. The closer I get, the more wind blades it throws, but I just increase the speed of my dance in the sky, not even breaking a sweat. Its eyes are larger than my entire head, and they burn bright orange while they track my every movement. At the speed that its pupils dart across the battlefield to track me, I'd assume it could throw far superior attacks than the ones it's using now. Once I get within 50 meters of the monster, its intentions finally become clear while the static noise flows into my ear. Your precision with the blade is admirable, but I'm afraid no one's eyes are as precise as mine. I know all of your movements, and this is really the end. Any last words? I sigh, twirling my daggers in my hands while I airstep closer. Any last words? An admirable fighter? You all sound the same. Every last one of you. Bring it on, let's see what you've really got. The sky around me changes color. It shifts from a bright blue with hardly a cloud in the sky to a murderous shade of orange. Hundreds of wind crescents appear from this air, coating in a dense orange layer of wind magic, and plummet toward me at over 4 times the speed its previous attacks did. My eyes sparkle with the flame of battle as I finally begin imbuing chi into my footsteps and around my eyes to aid my vision for the first time during our exchange. My reflexes are enhanced, my visual perception of soul energy is awakened, and my movement speed increases for a whole different level. I grip my daggers even tighter and dance through the sky again. The ringing sounds of chi on soul energy clash through the sky at over 30 beats per second. Plumes of white energy erupt from my daggers and orange mist fills the air, staining the sky with its coloring. Midway through my routine, the hawk that set up this attack dive bombs in at me to take advantage of the confusion it believes it's caused. The monster's sharp eyes begin to overflow with orange energy, and its hard beak sucks all of the protective soul energy around its body toward a main point, like sharpening and hardening its weapon to focus on a final attack. I sense it coming from above me before it's even finished hardening its beak and whisper under my breath. You really think I'd fall for something like this? Either I've gotten immensely stronger, or this dark guard is far too overconfident for its own good. The answer feels like it's obviously both. Whatever the case may be, it's leaving itself wide open, so I'll prepare to strike once it comes within range. The bird dive bombs in, and its speed increases to impressive highs. At its perfect calculated angle, it drops through the storm of wind slashes and threads the needle perfectly on track to make contact with me in the center. However, my own power is far from hitting its max, and I have plenty of tricks I haven't shown this opponent yet. It falls into the sphere of wind, and has its beak pointed straight at what it thinks is my blind spot while I continue to fend off its normal attacks. Once it's less than 10 meters away, and there is no way for it to change directions in time, or else it'll be torn apart by its own blades, I set up my own counterattack. I activate my flash skill to its maximum potential, lighting up the entire ball of wind into a second sun in the sky. Then, separate into many different illusions using Phantom Step to disperse into many plausible directions within the slashes of wind. Next, I activate Stealth to disappear from its senses entirely and use my speed buffs to position myself in front of the diving bird's underbelly. Last, I saturate my daggers with over half of the chi in my core to release a devastating dual slash of energy on course to slice this enormous graceful bird into pieces. It's over. Leaves my lips just a few milliseconds too soon. The slashes of chi are less than a meter away from slicing through the monster's heart and stomach, guaranteeing this victory for myself. However, the second flash of light in the sky ruins all of my perfectly calculated plans. Far away from our fight, over 500 meters above, an enormous release of mana and soul energy hits my senses the instant this lethal attack leaves my blades. The black suit of armor that was waiting patiently in the sky explodes into pieces and a flash of silver light comes out of it. It looks like liquid metal streaking toward us, and it's so fast, it makes my own chi-imbued footsteps look like I'm taking a leisurely stroll. The silver streak of light cuts the distance in an instant and swerves in front of my dual slash. All I can see in the blur of light is my blades of chi being completely deflected and thrown off in another direction and a bold number 2 printed on the silver forearm of the figure that deflected them. Chapter 472. Let me handle this, dumb bird, is the only thing I hear as the same silver arm that blocked my attack punches the brown bird in the underbelly. Its wind magic attacks all disappear in an instant, and it goes flying high into the air without even having to flap its wings. It isn't killed, but definitely knocked unconscious in a single blow. I jump backward and go on the defensive immediately, scanning the figure in front of me, but hardly believe what I see when LV 1894 appears on its status along with the Curse of the Lich King buff and nothing else. I get a good look at the guard, and its figure starts to look less and less human to me the more I examine it. With 3 horns coming out of its forehead, shimmering silver skin, athletic striated muscles, and eyes that stare directly through my soul as if this creature has been living for 1,000,000 years. The pupils and irises are both jet black, while the outer edges that are usually white are a dull, matte silver, a few shades darker than its skin. Whatever this creature is, it is far from human. The silver aura that surrounds its body is dreadful. It feels colder than ice, but looks like a constant stream of evaporating metal particles coming off its body. It makes a motion as if it were about to step forward in the air, but before its foot even completes a full stride, a silver flash of light fills my vision and it's right in front of me, staring me in the eyes less than half a meter from my face. Fight me. I was told you are a strong one. I hope that attack was not the full extent of your power. The creature doesn't strike me even though it's clearly within range. It just stares into my eyes with a lifeless gaze and waits for me to answer. I use this opportunity to continue my motion backward, placing my daggers on my waist and pulling out my fire-imbued sword while swallowing a chi pill to restore the half of my core that was used up in my last attack. I concentrate my chi into my blade and use the excess in my barrier to only cover my vital organs with the maximum density possible. The rest of my body is still covered at 75% strength, but considering my opponent's speed and power, it feels necessary to defend for any potential lethal strikes. It steps forward again, and it takes most of my perception skill, purely focused on its movements, to watch the silver flash come closer. Its right hand glows brighter silver and a long spear appears that looks like bubbling metal being summoned from seemingly nowhere. It lunges forward with the silver spear and throws a basic attack straight at my heart. Its eyes are locked on the target, and it moves with absolute confidence. No matter the direction I move, it will surely follow, and given the time I have until it makes impact, the only thing I can do is block. I grit my teeth and focus everything I have into my swordsmanship skill, letting chi flow through my hands into the blade while glowing brightly with all my buffs. I air-step sharply to turn my body in the same direction I swing my sword, and it collides with the sharp edge of the spear. Silver soul energy reacts with the plumes of chi that erupt from my sword, and for a moment both of us are stood perfectly still in the air as if we're evenly matched. However, The silver figure pushes forward with unyielding force, consistently pressing on without a single change in its expression or soul energy released whatsoever. My own power is fluctuating greatly as I continue to push its limits and fend off the attack aimed to end my life. As my airstep's force catches up to me, my angle of momentum relative to the creature's spear shifts, and my body rotates out of its direct path. There's an explosion of white and silver energy that sends me flying to the side while I follow through with my swing, pushing me farther away, and the silver spear misses my body entirely by just a few centimeters. The instant I ready myself in the air again and look for my opponent, it's already turned at a right angle and come back at me with machine-like precision. I block again, twisting my body to the other side, using up precious chi, but avoiding a fatal blow. This time after our separation, the spear comes back much faster than the first 2 times. The incoming strike is so quick I can't even move my sword fast enough to block it. I want to activate my newest ranked-up buff to increase my size, speed, and power, but its activation time takes far longer than what I have to work with here. The best possible option I have in a moment like this is to move all of my chi to cover my heart and head, then brace for impact. It lunges forward and the tip of its silver spear comes within millimeters of making contact with my chest, but it disappears before my eyes again. The author's narrative has been misappropriated. Report any instances of the story on Amazon. Next thing I see is the creature to my side thrusting his spear through the back of my left knee. It disappears and reappears, and I feel it thrust another attack through the inner side of my right elbow. It vanishes 2 more times, thrusting its weapon through both of my opposite knee and elbow with no resistance at all. Searing pain erupts from the center joints of all 4 of my limbs, and it becomes impossible to move at the same speed I did a moment ago. The creature appears in front of me with the same emotionless look on its face, staring me straight in the eyes, then pushes its palm on my chest where my chi barrier is still the strongest. An incredible pressure knocks the wind out of me, and I'm blasted back, down toward the desert floor. This all happens in fractions of a second, that it's almost too fast for me to comprehend until after the fact. Its words echo in my mind as I fall. As I thought, you are just another weak human, and the visual of it punching its brown bird partner from the sky moments ago replay in my head, showing that in this form I was really just as weak to it as the 6th ranked guard was to me. Even though it stares at me with an emotionless gaze high above in the sky with its arms crossed, and silver spear floating by its side, I can still feel the cold sensation of its attack in my legs and arms. If anything, it's getting even colder. I ignite my body in a sea of flames, but the cold sensation doesn't stop. Once I look down at my legs and at both of my arms, I see the silver soul energy growing from the injuries this creature gave me. It looks like metallic slow-moving ice is growing from my joints, and it's freezing my flesh and bones no matter how much fire I summon onto it. I attempt to cancel out its ability by flooding the areas with chi, but it does nothing more than eat up the white energy and drain my stores. All of the energy in the infected areas is being sucked away. I even activate my Red Hydra's buff, but it's even less effective than my pure chi, so I shut it off the moment I realize it's futile. On top of this issue, I'm also hurtling toward the ground at speeds faster than anything I've ever experienced. Once my multiple attempts at healing come back with definite failures, I imbue my sword with a raging hot fire to slice through my own legs above the affected area, destroying the problem entirely before it spreads too far. I slice off my own left arm, then regrow only it to hold my sword and slice off my right. An item storage portal forms above me, and the frozen silver limbs float up into suspended animation while I regrow my other 3 limbs and focus on the bigger issue at hand. Based on my downward velocity, impact will not be survivable if I fall on my neck or back. I activate wind magic gusts below myself to slow my fall. This works, but my momentum is too great to stop entirely. The golden sand below me gets closer very quickly. I position myself upright to land on my feet, making impact on the ground with an echoing thud that displaces the sand all around for over 100 meters wide and over 20 meters deep. As the dust clears, I quickly open my item storage. My subconscious creates a new method for retrieving gear from my inventory. I open 4 simultaneous portals beneath my feet and in front of my hands, plunging all 4 limbs into my storage, and retrieving the unaffected gear from the limbs I cut off previously back exactly where they were on my body before. My rings, boots, and gauntlets come out of my storage system on my body as I pull myself out of the spatial magic. With it, I pull out another chi pill and swallow it on the spot, expanding my perception range to locate the dark guard in the sky. Before this creature can get a chance to attack me again, I activate my newest buff, Rising Emperor's Greater Form. Instantly, I feel my power grow and my feet lift off the ground. Energy erupts from the cloud of dust that formed from my impact, and an enormous black shadowy energy projection of myself is left staring up at the sky. The silver entity feels the disturbance the moment my transformation starts and zips down to the desert floor to see what has happened. It stares forward with its silver spear slowly floating around its body in circles while it patiently waits for my transformation to reach its peak form. Then it finally speaks up. Weak, dumb, humans, you do not understand how pointless it is for me to fight an inferior creature like you. Merely by existing, I have already won. I don't listen to its words. I just charge up my sword with everything I've got. I create my most destructive attack possible. To do so, I plunder mana crystals that fall from my item storage and feed my main body with mana, and imbue the inside of the attack with chi. The enormous shadowy armor that amplifies my strength by over 7 times mimics my actions, showing my sword glow and flicker with jet black flames. The inner core of the Greater Form's sword glows white with chi, as energy leaves my body continuously feeding into this buff's powers. The sand beneath my feet and all around me is melting and turning to liquid glass as I continue charging up and waiting for any signs of movement from the silver figure, but it doesn't budge. It just continues staring forward with its arms crossed. It speaks again as I pull back my sword to swing. I will make you understand how weak you really are. I swing my sword forward at its cryptic message, and a wave of chi surrounded by fire magic multiplied by my ranked-up buff's power tears through the desert, melting every rock, sand dune, and shrubbery in its way. The second-ranked Dark Guard doesn't budge, and it's hit directly by the mountain-splitting slash. I feel immense amounts of energy drain from me but watch in amazement at my own power as it collides with the floating silver mass of soul energy. Based on the Dark Guard's confidence, I was still partially considering the fact that it could block an attack like this if it tried. I can sense its estimated soul energy density, and I created a slash strong enough to easily break through its barriers. But for some reason, the monster still stays standing in one place as my slash makes contact. The creature is sliced in two. There is hardly any resistance at all actually. A small eruption of soul energy, chi, and flames burst out on contact. But the guard made no effort to increase its shielding or dodge the blast. Most of its body is incinerated through. All that remains are a few parts of its arms, legs, and the top half of its spear. My heart beats loudly in my ears as I regain my MP stores and take another chi pill to recharge. I keep a safe distance away and hold my blade at the ready for something to happen, but nothing does. The part that irks me is the fact that there wasn't even a level-up reward for defeating this opponent. I murmur to myself, this can only mean one thing, it's somehow not dead. The scattered tiny bits of silver parts all throughout the desert begin to vibrate and move. My eyes try to track them all as they begin to come back to a central point. Once they do, the silver cells begin replicating and growing, reforming the horned creature's body to look exactly the same as before it started. The eyes of this menacing monster look as emotionless as when the battle began. It grabs its spear as it completely reforms in its hand, and speaks again. Do you understand now how weak humans truly are? Chapter 473. The silver-coated creature stares at me, completely unharmed after taking a point-blank hit from my most powerful attack. I'm positive I just blew apart and incinerated over 70% of its body. But in mere seconds it managed to completely regenerate despite me destroying all of its organs and even its entire head. The creature walks forward and speaks up again. Do you see why you are weak? A simple hit to the head or heart will cause irreversible damage in a human body. No matter how much you train or powers you gain, you will always be an inferior species. I grip my sword tight and point it forward in a ready stance, waiting for it to finish its point and for the battle to move on. Just like my bird-brain partner that I use for a ride, even it is fragile enough to be taken out by your chi-based attack. One hit in the vitals and it's all over. Such weak creatures. My eyes widen as he speaks these words. From what I recall, fighting the 7th ranked guard, it couldn't see my chi blades at all, and from what I saw in my moments fighting with the 6th, it wasn't able to perceive them either. Somehow, this metal monster is able to, almost as if it has read my mind, the 2nd ranked dark guard continues. Just like your red soul energy, I too have borrowed power from the dark one I am capable of using. However, myself and 2 other dark guards have cultivated chi and awakened our own soul energy. This is why I choose to leave the dark one's power dormant. It's not necessary. The figure grips his spear tight. The dark one, that being is the only one that is truly strong. You are a fool for challenging its all-powerful might. You're just a human. He points his spear forward at me, then lunges forward in a flash of silver speed. A loud vibrating twang echoes throughout the open desert as the layers of silver energy around its spear tip collide with the dense energy manifestation of my mana and chi soaking my sword. Its spear is deflected and it bounces back in the air a few meters before flying back in toward me. In my greater form, I'm much larger than it is. Even so, its speed and power do not surpass my own. I'm able to easily block its incoming strikes as it sends in more and more pointed at my heart, head, and upper spine. It isn't hard to block any individual attacks, and the amount of mana and chi being used up for just pure defense is rather manageable. It feels as if I've finally obtained the advantage in this exchange. However, there is no time to relax. Its machine-like precision still keeps me on guard. Every few exchanges, I'm able to see an opening in its movements. There is no mistake that it's made, it's just not physically quick enough to escape my blade. I land slashes across its torso, slicing off limbs, and even an attack with my elongated sword in my greater form that cuts off his head at the neck and incinerates it entirely on the spot. Every time, its mass bubbles and reforms, regrowing everything it's lost without any change in expression or power level. The monster even blocks a second incoming attack with the tip of its spear before its entire head has even grown back. Over 10 of my attacks land, and over 30 total exchanges of blocks and dodges pass, but not a single time has it managed to land any on me. It doesn't show any emotion, and no signs of slowing down, so I decide to try a few more options. I attempt to lock the creature in place with rock and ice, but its strong body breaks through my traps without any resistance because my mana manifestations aren't reinforced with chi. Flames from my blade are only super effective when chi is imbued inside the slashes, and both wind and water attacks are just as effective as the stone and ice. They make the creature exert more energy by breaking them, or pushing through the pure force of the attack, but there is not nearly as much lasting damage as my sword strikes. They don't even slow it down or make a dent in its body. This content has been misappropriated from Royal Road. Report any instances of this story if found elsewhere. It speaks as I continue my testing. I've watched your tapes in the arena, I've analyzed your fighting style, I know all of your skills and tricks. This is not a matter of how I will defeat you, it is just a matter of when you will decide to give up. I know your strength and you cannot defeat me. Its voice rings in my ears, and I decide to activate the one new skill that I've been waiting to try. All of my other elemental skills are advanced grade combat magic powers, but there is one that I have most recently acquired that is one tier higher. Extreme Lightning Summoning. As the silver monster comes in to attack with another barrage of calculated spear thrusts, golden arcs of electricity begin to form all over the massive shadowy greater form that stands out in the desert. At first, it just looks like mild static, but as I channel more and more of my MP into it, the arcs of electricity begin to burst outward at a violent, uncontrollable rate. Energy surges through my body, making me feel even faster and more alert. It's as if I just activated a speed and perception buff. This must be an extra passive perk from an extreme grade elemental skill. I drain MP crystals from my inventory to allow the skill to fully activate, using up tens of thousands of MP per second to expand the lightning's range outward. I visualize the orb of static that the 40th floor boss created when fighting me. However, as I use it, my arcs of electricity look a bit different. They're not expanding outward in an even sphere like I remembered before, They're all arcing outward in many directions, then curving in toward a single point. A bright yellow and white line of concentrated electricity hits the metal man with all of its power. It seems the arcs of electricity are drawn to it, no matter what direction I spew them out from. They all direct right back into the silver figure that lunges toward me with its spear. Its body vibrates violently on a microscopic level. I see its silver skin twist, swirl, and make thousands of pin-sized spikes all over uncontrollably in rapid succession. Even so, its forward momentum does not stop and it continues to attack. After a full half a second of pure discharge, I deactivate my lightning skill and focus on swinging my sword down to block its incoming spear strike like usual. However, this time the Dark Guard's movement feels slightly off. It feels like it's lagging behind, as if it's lost half a second of planning time while its body still moves forward in an attack. For the first time in this entire battle, its eyes dilate and widen for a split second as it tries to readjust its course, but I don't let that happen. I swing my sword downward and slice the creature in two, releasing extra waves of chi and black flames I wouldn't have been able to produce and hit so precisely if I didn't have the opportunity of its misstep. The monster's spear hand in its right half still lunges at me, and I block its hit, jumping back and pushing it back as well. It reforms into its original form, and its eyes revert back to its normal state, but I'm sure I caught it off guard for a moment. My lightning attack is naturally attracted to its metallic body, and when it was hit with everything I had, I'm positive it froze with shock and made an error. I grin ear to ear, and activate my lightning summoning skill again, running forward with my sword and going in to test my theory once more. It sprints into full battle mode too, and we run forward to clash. The same exact results occur as my lightning blast makes contact. My opponent is stunned for a fraction of a second, and I land an even higher damage-dealing blow, incinerating a solid amount of its body away, but retreating after my attack just in case to not get hit by a counter. I do it again and again over 5 more times. Each time I manage to land stronger hits, and I get in position to land the final blow. If I can land the same attack it let me throw at it earlier, but at closer range, I'm nearly certain I'll be able to incinerate every last particle of this monster and kill it for good. The only reason it's able to regenerate is because there is a portion of it remaining. The only logical thing I can think to do is make sure none of it remains. Attacks with my greater form sword without releasing any significant percents of my core's chi are able to incinerate 15 to 25% of its body mass in a single strike. In its weakened state, the moment after an electric shock, a slash is capable of destroying 25 to upward of 40% of its mass. With that being said, I managed to decimate over 70% of its mass in a single strike when releasing chi from my core in a concentrated fireblade when it gave me a free shot. If I'm able to land this attack right after electrifying it, there's a high chance I'll be able to win this battle on the next strike. My breathing slows, and I get in tune with my heart rate and the rhythm of battle, fending off its robotic attacks and waiting for the perfect time to release another lightning strike. Eventually, my moment comes. I release arcs of static from the perfect distance, and ready my manifested blade full of chi and mana. Tons of mana crystals from my farming yesterday are drained by my plunderer skill as I focus on making my attacks as dense and potent as possible. The instant my electricity ceases, I swing my blade and let the black crescent of flames covering a blade of chi fly across the desert floor, heading toward the silver man frozen in place less than 10 meters away. It is on a path to hit the creature at point-blank range and destroy it completely. Right before impact, the air pressure changes, and I jump backward while restoring my mana and chi with crystals and pills. The last thing I see in my enhanced perception skill before impact is the outer layer of its eyes shifting from silver to the bright orange borrowed soul energy of the Lich King. Chapter 474. The orange soul energy spreads from its eyes to surround its entire body. Its 3 horns atop its head grow larger and begin to turn into a shimmering orange metallic color. The creature's eyes look sharper, and I can tell that it is now operating on a whole new level that just fractions of a second ago. The attack I threw at its base form, hoping to incinerate it to pieces, collides with the outer layer of its orange shielding, and an eruption of black fire, orange soul energy, and white chi disperses from the attack. My ultimate strike manages to slice through its shielding, but large amounts of its firepower are blasted away. Less than half of the attack even makes it through to make contact with the monster itself. An impressive wound still rips the horned beast in half, disintegrating most of its left side. But this is far from what I was hoping to see. Even a direct hit in its most vulnerable position using my most powerful attack is not going to be enough to kill this monster. It immediately heals and thrusts its spear forward at me with far greater strength and speed than it did in our exchanges before. The orange energy from the Lich King is boosting its natural strength and energy control by at least 2 times. It's clear it was holding back before because it believed I wasn't capable of dealing any real damage to its body. But now it's getting serious. Its spear tip collides with my greater form sword, and the energies that collide make a shockwave of energy that spreads through what's left of the melted sand all around us. It pushes forward, staring at me with its emotionless gaze while my shadow-manifested form's twisting face emotionlessly stares back at it. We don't move for a full second, both stuck in place pushing our power against the other with equal force. Eventually, the force builds up too great, and we're both propelled backward. The bottoms of my mana-manifested boots grip the glass shards, rocks, and sand of the desert, activating wind magic to keep myself upright and facing forward. The horned creature digs its feet into the ground too, staring ahead and staying on guard. I decide to speak up for the first time in our fight, replying to its earlier nonsense with my screech skill to project my voice across the battlefield. Looks like you're just as weak as this puny human, even borrowing power from your lord. I thought you said you could defeat me while keeping the Dark One's soul energy dormant. What happened to that resolve? His grip tightens and it lunges forward again. There will be no one left to witness this scene. The Dark One has ordered me to dispose of you, and I shall do it by any means necessary now. It thrusts its spear straight at the center of my head, and I swing up my sword to block. We bounce from each other in an energy-filled clash again, but the monster jumps back in at me without missing a beat. Over and over, switching positions like a machine. It aims for my heart, head, and back. However, I endure and stay focused. Once I've figured out its attack pattern, I begin launching counters of my own. Its 2 weaknesses I know of are lightning to stun it, and chi to actually damage it. I alternate between the 2 whenever I get the chance. I shock it time and time again whenever it gets near, and manage to land a few hits with my greater form's blade imbued with chi, but it doesn't seem to mind these minor attacks. It takes my sword slashes head-on, hardly trying to dodge, mostly just continuing to thrust its spear forward to aim for my vitals with unyielding accuracy and vigor. I land over 15 solid hits, and shock it senseless with lightning over 20 times, but it keeps coming back for more, not changing its strategy at all nor slowing its movements in the slightest. Then, just as I get comfortable with its rhythmic attacks, and start to prepare for getting into position to send off another one of my major strikes, something changes. This attack pattern shifts, and its spear tilts downward mid-strike. It doesn't aim for my chest, but rather thrusts its spear into my upper thigh. In doing so, it leaves its head wide open and I cut it clean off, even landing a second slash as I pull my sword back to cut through its torso and slice it into 3 pieces. However, as I lunge back and it reforms, I feel a cold sensation creeping up my right leg. Even though it stabbed right through my greater form's body, the damage from the attack still carries over to my real body inside the greater form. I feel my right quad muscles tightening up, and it becomes harder to step forward. My skin and muscles are quickly turning into the silvery icy mass just like it did before when it attacked me in midair in my base form. Right now, I have no time to amputate and reform my entire limb, so I'm going to have to think of something else fast. The Dark Guard flies forward at me again, now aiming for my heart, and I barely block its incoming blow. We both fly back and it attacks my head, then back, then resets to do everything again as I continuously block its strikes. Meanwhile, the silver ice spreads deeper into my leg. Only one possible solution comes to mind. I activate my mana manipulation skill and create a barrier of pink energy beneath the infected area of skin. Without hesitation for even a fraction of a second, I tear away a chunk of my leg and propel it away from me, then use self-regeneration to stop the bleeding and restore my ripped-up muscles. A bloody shard of flesh that hardens into a frozen crystal of silver metal shatters as it hits the desert floor beside me. At the same time, I block another barrage of the ruthless monster's attacks. We go on for almost a full minute, tearing up the desert, creating paths of glass and craters deep enough to build small settlements inside. Hundreds of sword-on-spear collisions go by. Over 1 million MP worth of mana crystals are absorbed from my item storage, and virtually no progress has been made on my end. I land plenty of blows after powerful lightning strikes, but it heals instantly and it seemingly doesn't affect it whatsoever. Every few dozen attacks, it manages to hit my arm or leg with its spear as well. This story has been taken without authorization. Report any sightings. I'm able to discard the damaged areas, but unlike this monstrosity, I have a limit to how long and hard I can fight. Eventually, I will get fatigued from using such massive amounts of mana and chi, especially in this greater form. It knows this very well, and is just waiting patiently for me to meet my end. I attempt to send body doubles out to the dungeons. As if Ember were here, he'd be able to help me face this creature 2-on-1. However, my doubles' weak basic forms with no chi or excess mana to drain continuously get killed before they can even escape 50 meters away from us. It knows I'm using my copies to send for help and won't allow for it. Ember and my other doubles are still deep within the dungeon's farming mana, so sensing anything in the outside world is beyond their capabilities. I have to do this on my own, and I need to figure out a way to kill this monster right now. As these thoughts race through my mind, the visual of the outer edge of the town comes into my immediate field of view. The moment I see it, I realize that our battle has stretched many kilometers through the open desert already, and if we continue to fight like this, over 100 innocent people will be caught in range of the excess energy from our attacks. As I try to guide the horned monster away, blocking its strikes and attempting to guide its next attack in a different direction, it jumps back and doesn't attack me again as it usually does. In just 2 simple moves, it's already caught on. My eyes widen and my heart skips a beat as it opens its mouth to speak again. You know another weakness humans have that I just can't stand? It's the one that makes you all truly the dumbest of them all. I grit my teeth as the monster's orange eyes shift toward the town in the distance, and I know exactly what it'll say next before it even leaves its silver lips. It's the fact that you do not value self-preservation before everything else. If an opponent is stronger than you, why don't you run or submit? If the odds are against you, why do you choose to roll the dice just for the chance of glory? It points its spear forward, turning its head toward the town then back to me. And why? Would you risk your own life to protect those that are weaker than you? If they cannot fight off enemies themselves, they are better off dead. It turns its entire body and jumps in the air, flying off toward the town in a silver and orange flash of light. It yells back to me as I jump in the air using wind magic to follow. I'll give you a choice. It's a simple choice that every human like yourself chooses incorrectly. Let's see how you fare. It flies high up into the air at a 45-degree angle, making a direct course to end up a kilometer above the center of the desert town right next to where the residential housing is. If it is planning what I think it is, all I can do is use every power within my means to stop it. The closer to the town we get, the closer I get to catching up to the silver-orange streak in the sky, but our speed stats are nearly identical in our advanced forms. Even using lightning to shock its system hardly slows it down any more than it slows me to let out a charge. All I'm able to do is try to catch up and think of a plan before it's too late. Once it reaches its destination above the town, it comes to a halt, and I slice it in 2 right there in the sky. However, it doesn't react at all. It just reforms its body and points its spear down at the ground. My final destination is below us. The Dark One has informed me that you have grown a liking to this town and its citizens. Along with that, your teammates that I had the pleasure of watching in the arena are down there too. You're the strongest fighter here, aren't you? It'd be a shame if I brought them into the fight, wouldn't it? How would they fare against my power? Its eyes glow orange and it points down at the town below us again. Your final decision must be made here and now. Submit to the power of the Dark One. Become a Dark Guard and be on the side of the army that rules the mortal world. Or, die failing to protect those below in a meaningless human struggle. I channel chi into my blade without thinking twice about its options. As it rambled on about its great power, I came up with a last-ditch strategy that has a high potential of working. A grin forms on my face while lunging forward, and our sword and spear collide in the open air again. I allow the figure to thrust my sword down and push me directly down toward the small town. It dives toward me, sending off more ruthless attacks as we fall toward the people that have sworn their loyalty to me. Our even-sided duel continues as we both rocket toward the ground. Attacks of lightning and chi blades slice it to pieces, and frozen metal shards of skin and flesh of my own are ejected to the sides. However, this time, the monster knows it is destined to win as soon as we hit the ground. Its movements speed up, and it takes riskier spear strikes as it has nothing to lose. Victory is mine, it has been since the beginning. You have thrown away your life for nothing. It is a shame, you would have been a great asset to the Dark One. We cross the halfway point. Now, we are less than 500 meters in the air. From the town below, it looks as if a massive ball of fire is raining down from the sky. I can sense everyone, especially in my greater form. It is possible to see Abby in the guild hall, a large distortion of chi with all my teammates below her, and roughly 140 residents all scattered within the housing area enjoying their first full day of freedom. I whisper under my breath, "Not close enough yet." In the same moment, I send out an urgent message in a wave of telepathy to Abby, and she hears my call immediately. A burst of green light comes out of the guild hall, and many people in the streets begin to notice the second sun falling from the sky. They begin to group together, and a massive circle of restoration erupts from Abby down below as she groups everyone together in the town square. I continue to fend off the silver monster in the sky, but the waves of energy continue to blast off in many directions. It speaks again as we both are sent flying faster downward after a powerful burst, now less than 200 meters above the ground. "It's over. Look at that. They've all even come to watch your demise and end their own lives in the process. How pitiful." It sends another heavy spear strike down at me, pushing me to fall faster while it is sent flying upward. I fall within 100 meters of the town square while the Dark Guard hovers at almost 250 above the ground. It charges up the point of its spear and yells out while dive bombing toward me with the same emotionless gaze. Time to finish this. I activate my newest perk from my Rising Emperor's domain called Power Holder and reply, "I agree. Let's finish this." Power Holder activated. 10% power share. Receive. Select party members. All. Select stat points. All. Select mana control. All. Temporary buffs added. +3, 982 strength. +2, 902 speed. +3, 470 agility. +3005 defense. +4, 402 mental strength. +3, 568, 290, 446 mana control. An incredible surge of power floods in from below me, as I feel over 140 individual streams of dense mana instantly seep into my body. All of my enchanted gear adapts to my new nearly doubled base stats, and my energy control improves by adding billions of MP worth of control to my efficiency. On top of that, the greater form I'm wielding applies these stats even more. I take a deep breath and feel power surge through me like nothing I've ever felt. I can see everything, feel everything. It's like I've temporarily ranked up again. While enjoying this moment of bliss, I don't lose sight of the task at hand. I activate my lightning magic with every ounce of mana and strength I have left in me, shooting bright yellow and white tendrils of electricity out of me from all angles. They all close in on a single point high in the sky. My enhanced perception watches the monster's silver skin vibrate and stir while I charge up my sword with every bit of chi I can channel. The horned beast falls down as I use wind magic to stop my fall less than 70 meters above the surface. As we collide, dense waves of flames cloak the sword as I release it up at the paralyzed Dark Guard with genuine fear in its eyes for the first time. The sky lights up with an incredible ball of fire, electricity, soul energy, and chi. Over 90% of the creature is destroyed instantaneously, incinerated on the spot. I allow for my lightning attack to be released from my body again, and use my enhanced perception to track its remaining fragments down and burn them away while I continuously restore my MP and chi. The tiny silver bits attempt to grow and reform, but the continuous shocks of electricity keep the fragments stunned in the sky until I can slice through each and every one. I don't stop slashing away at them, plundering more mana from my storage and swallowing more chi until I hear a series of notifications sound in my ear. Level up X138. Use absorption. MCP 389, 550, 246 MP. Yes. No. Use absorption. Stat 1921 strength. Yes. No. A wave of satisfaction and relief washes over me as I reach level 1140 and press yes to absorb its strength and MCP. I deactivate my greater form and release the stat points and mana control I stole away from the townspeople below me, but my all-seeing eye picks up on 2 high-level mana readings still in the sky. One of them is the silver diamond-shaped spearhead that was on the tip of the Dark Guard's weapon, and the other is a large brown bird with a number 6 burning beneath its wing. It is flying away from the city in the direction of Sector 1. Chapter 475. I airstep upward to appraise the silver diamond spear tip falling through the air before opening a spatial magic portal to let it fall into my item storage. Metal fragment of infinite regeneration, plus 338% strength, plus 290% mental strength, plus 277% defense, hidden ability. In the same upward movement, I pinpoint the 6th-ranked Dark Guard way off in the distance flying away from me at high speeds. I don't hesitate to blast off and follow it through the sky at an even faster rate using all of my buffs and wind magic skill. I'm able to catch up to it in a matter of minutes, but the amount of mana I used to rocket through the sky this far would be highly inefficient for high-speed travel over long distances. It is much more efficient at flying than I am. However, this doesn't matter as I swing my chi-infused sword 2 times and slice off both of its wings at their bases. The creature doesn't react until it's too late, erupting into a sea of orange soul energy while I stand on its back with my blade pointed at its neck. We both plummet toward the desert floor. Its severed wings spin away into the wind by our sides as I open a telepathy link with the creature. Don't try anything stupid. Your life is in my hands now. As it feels my chi-infused sword start to melt through the back of its neck, the violent orange crescents of wind that was forming all around us disappear and it responds. Impossible. You defeated number 2? That is just not possible. I shove the blade deeper into its neck again as we fall through the thin cloud line and the golden desert sand becomes visible below us. Well, I'm here now and your partner isn't here to save you again. So it is in fact possible. I killed number 2. I twist my blade and continue talking. Now you're going to tell me a few things, and in return I'll set you free. How about that? It lets out a painful screech after my blade rips through its feathers and muscles, colliding with its upper spine. However, the bird doesn't respond. I take this vow of silence as a wish for death. I channel more chi into the blade, and it begins burning more flesh. Very well. The desert floor gets closer as I ride the wingless bird at an increasing speed toward the ground. I thrust my sword forward to kill it here and now, but it replies through our link. Wait, I'll tell you what you need. What do you want? You'll really set me free? And my wings, what about my wings? I dash. I smirk and stop my forward thrust, pulling my sword back right before where I could have severed its head from its spine. Sure, you'll get your wings back. Tell me what other guards are on their way, and what other forces can I expect to face coming here in the near future. I want time frame estimates, power levels in comparison to yourself and that 2nd-ranked Dark Guard. Then most importantly, where can I find the Dark One? I feel fear shiver through the bird's body, and a moment of hesitation in its reply come after my questions. So I stab the sword back in its neck. Answer me before we hit the ground. It replies the moment it feels my blade's tip hit its spine again. All right. I'll tell you what I know. I promise I'll tell you everything. Just dash. Go on. Number 2 is the Dark One's trusted exterminator. There is no job it cannot complete and no human it cannot kill. Only the 1st-ranked guard is stronger, but no one knows its strength other than the Dark One. I'm the fastest flyer, so number 2 and I were sent out to eliminate all double-ranked up threats before the other units arrived for cleanup. That's all I know. I thrust the blade in harder, cracking its bones, and here it let out a shriek of pain. If you stumble upon this narrative on Amazon, be aware that it has been stolen from Royal Road. Please report it. The ground is getting closer, we don't have much more time until impact. What's cleanup? Explain. No vague details. The remaining Dark Guards will lead the cleanup. They're coming by foot with the Dark One's army of wraiths and ghouls. It should take a week or two for everyone to arrive, but some Dark Guards may be faster than the main forces. They'll loot this town dry and take over Sector 2, just as planned from the very beginning. I shove my blade even deeper, causing the bird to cough blood out of its mouth, and I hear an audible crack in its bones. The Dark One, where can I find your leader? It doesn't respond. All I hear is the whistling wind by our side and watch the sandy dunes grow larger below us. Where can I find the Dark One? Still, no response comes back. Last chance. None of the Dark Guards know. You will not find the Dark One. It will find you. As these words enter my inner ear, I thrust my sword all the way through its neck, and we make impact with the sand below. Level up, X23. Use absorption. MCP 145, 262, 900 MP. Yes. No. I reach level 1163 and absorb its MCP as a large crater is formed in the desert and most of its body is incinerated by the force of the fall. There, you're free. As the dust cloud settles, I let out a sigh and pick up the only remaining piece of its body, examining it with my appraisal skill. Desert Hawk's beak. Plus 281% speed. Plus 222% agility. Wind attribute. The large beak that glows white with miniature swirls of wind magic falls into my item storage, while the two wings I severed from its body fall into the crater beside me. I air step up through the dusty cloud it creates and murmur under my breath. There are your wings back too. A deal's a deal. Now we're even. I self-regenerate my full body to try and restore some of the built-up fatigue from my fight against the second-ranked guard. But it feels like something only sleep or Abby's full restores can fix. Once I make it back to the town, my Flame Emperor's disguise goes back up, and I float toward the center of town to directly confront the issue at hand. Using telepathy, I let Abby know I'm coming, and update her on the outcome of both battles. She may understand, but the citizens of this town that was established just this morning may have very mixed opinions after seeing an energy attack that could have killed all of them instantaneously just barely get deflected less than 100 meters above their heads. To my surprise, not a single one of them has disconnected from my Rising Emperor's domain system, so it seems like they all still see me as their leader. However, it's best to come clean and tell them exactly what is happening to keep this trust in the future. As I make it over the center of town, then stand on top of the guild hall just like I did earlier. Many heads turn to the sky where I stand, and I see a mixed use of stares of awe, religious bliss, confusion, and even excitement fill the crowd. Abby floats up to the roof behind me, and I begin to give a speech. As all of you have seen, our town is under attack. This is a very important detail I did not reveal when you all swore loyalty to me. We are at war with the underground leader of Sector 1. Their army is on the way, and it will be sending many other opponents like the one you just witnessed me fend off. I stand in silence for a moment to let the crowd soak in this information, then speak up again. Considering these new events, if you wish to leave the city and receive a trip back to Sector 4, I will be more than happy to arrange this travel. However, just know that putting your trust in me aided my victory in this last battle. I'm sure many of you felt slightly weaker before my clash in the sky, but now are back to your normal selves. Am I right? Chatter from the crowd begins to grow. Many people confirm that they did feel weaker, like their power was being drained. I speak up again before too many opinions can be shared. I know most of you are not warriors or hunters, and wish to live a simple life in this village. This is a lot to take in after months of forced labor, and on your first day of freedom. If the simple life is all you desire, that is more than enough to help my future city thrive. Do not feel pressured by my words to do something that is not in your nature. However, if you wish to become strong and fight by my side, I can lead you to a path of immeasurable strength. After these words leave my lips, I activate my Rising Emperor's domain again and use it to share my power rather than take it. Power holder activated. 10% power share. Contribute. Select party members. All. Select stat points. All. Select mana control. All. The contributed stat points are nothing special, as 10% of my stats are evenly split between all 140 townspeople. This boosts everyone's base power by a few points on each stat. However, the mana control is where the difference is made. Tens of millions of MP worth of mana control are granted to each and every person below me. This is enough to begin sensing mana in a very different way than normal hunters. It's around the range of mana control a hunter between level 300 and 400 would achieve when they're destined to become an elite. An incredible surge of energy is felt in every one of the people below, and they all are hit with a simultaneous burst of euphoria from receiving this power. Many of the hunters in the crowd activate their skills and can't believe the new efficiency they've been granted. Elderly and simple merchants move around with far greater agility and ease. The small group of new religious believers all get down on their knees and begin bowing at the gift from their God they've just received. I allow everyone to react to the power in their own way, and allow them to talk amongst themselves for almost a full minute, then speak again. My ability has the power to grant my followers gifts in times of need, and in return, I'm able to receive your power if necessary in battle as well. I deactivate my buff, letting the power come back to me and leave everyone in their unaltered normal states. So, knowing this information now, decide what you will do. The first option is to get a ride back to Sector 4. The second option is to stay and live a simple, quiet life in this city. Lastly, the option I am extending to those of you that are ready to take the leap. You may join me and become the first members of the Flame Emperor's army. Chapter 476. The group below me begins to shift and talk amongst themselves. A few speak up and ask specific questions about things from general city growth in the future, to the reason why I'm fighting Sector 1, and finally how I'll be able to train them and grant them power if they wish. One by one, I explain in further detail our situation. The majority of people already knew there was a war going on just from the way I conduct myself, and the demonstration of power against the gang leaders previously. Before they even agreed to serve me, many felt the mana shockwaves of my battle against the Colossal and already assumed the worst. Considering this, not a single person decides to sever our link and take my offer to leave back to Sector 4. That doesn't mean they all have combat abilities and wish to fight though. Over 2/3 of the crowd chooses to stay and not fight. They're hoping to become business owners, simple workers for those businesses, or even artists living a simple life in the city. I direct all of them to consult Morse's builder team and work over the details in the guild hall with Abby once this meeting is over. My words to the architect are heard by everyone as they disappear into the octagonal empty hall. That's right. I put in the order for your building materials and should have them delivered by tonight. Anyone that has special housing needs or would like to establish a business, tonight will be the soft deadline to get these things submitted. A large construction project will begin tomorrow. Once they all go inside, there are 37 individuals that stay standing in the square. I do a scan through all of them and find these are certainly the strongest ones here. Almost everyone in this group is over level 150, and a majority of them have useful basic combat skills like dagger arts, swordsmanship, body hardening, and various stat buffing skills. Of these brave recruits, 3 in particular stand out the most to me. I point into the crowd. You 3, step forward. My gaze locks with each of theirs as I point to them individually and they step forward. State your names and abilities. A short, bulky, blonde-haired man steps forward first. The name is Francis. I wield earth magic. Next, a thin, dark-featured young man with a handsome face steps up next. I'm Andy. I have a wind magic skill awakened. Then lastly, a woman with orange hair, freckles, athletic build, and sharp eyes speaks up. The name's Rachel. I control fire. As they begin to realize why I singled them out, I use my body double skill to split into 2 parts. There are some wide eyes from the crowd, but no one reacts too much as my copy steps forward and talks. If you would like to get stronger, I'll be providing you all with gear, resources, ability training, and power leveling indefinitely in the dungeons just outside town. Split into 3 groups behind one of these element users. These will be your team leaders. Of course, everything will be overseen by me, but we will begin training right away. Everyone does as my double says, and gets into groups behind each element user, and they all follow to a nearby warehouse for gear to be sorted out and for my double to change up the teams a bit. My goal is to get them all up to level 250 to 300 using their own skills and abilities with my double giving guidance. Then, I will take over and train them myself, allowing them to absorb mana control once they've built up a good enough base of fighting talent. With my inspect and appraisal skill, I'll be able to give them all the perfect gear and match them up with opponents that will push them to their limits together. The author's tale has been misappropriated. Report any instances of this story on Amazon. The reasoning behind having the only 3 element wielders be perceived as leaders early on is because they will naturally be able to gain mana control faster. In time, they will become stronger than the hunters by their sides. It's best to put them in this position now rather than later. Once I see them off, and my double takes them to the nearby warehouse, I'm left alone in the center of the square. I let out a sigh and airstep high above the town to look down on it from the sky. The sun will be setting soon, but I still have quite a bit of time to use up before that happens. I could check on Ember and my doubles to see how their progress on element stone farming is going, but to be honest, even if they were ready for another pod, I don't think it would be a good idea for me to go inside for isolated cultivation just yet. There are still a lot of things to do that can only be done by me, and if any of the Dark Guards come by now, I'm certain my teammates aren't capable of stopping even the weakest of them in their current form. Ember can fend for himself, but even in his current state, I question if he could have beaten the 2nd-ranked Dark Guard on his own. It would probably be possible, but it's not a risk I'm willing to leave up to chance. I whisper under my breath, "That settles it. I'll stay on guard and protect this place myself until everyone is strong enough." As these thoughts race through my mind, the slow-moving wind passes by high up in the sky, and I decide to open up my item storage to see if I can craft any items worth filling my open item slots. I sift through everything and examine their stats very carefully, seeing what options my craftsmanship dashboard gives me when I set certain items next to each other. This is it. My old daggers didn't hold up too well against a double ranked up monster, so I think it's about time I make an upgraded set. A smile shows across my face as I decide on what item I'll make first by merging 3 items from A-ranked monsters together into one, along with enough blood to bond with the creation and tens of thousands of MP in crystals to be the energy for the craft. Extreme Grade Lightning Stone Wolf Guardian's Fong plus 265% mental strength plus 258 speed. Lightning Attribute Desert Hawk's Beak plus 281% speed plus 222% agility. Wind Attribute Dash Storm King's Dagger Set Blood Bonded plus 312% speed plus 299% mental strength plus 276% agility plus 250% strength plus 250% defense. Lightning Attribute Wind Attribute After an intense burst of light, a pair of long, curved white blades with yellow static rippling from them emerge from the craft. They have the same merging perk as my other daggers, allowing me to use them as a single blade or a pair as I wish. As soon as I hold them, a rush of buffs flows through me, and I test them out in the sky, throwing enormous blades of sharp wind charged with intense waves of electricity through the air. Satisfied with this craft, I place them into my storage after a few more slashes. I'll have to test them out on a real opponent to see their true capabilities later. While they don't have the destructive power that fire magic brings, the deadliness of the wind blades and usefulness of the lightning stun may put these daggers on par with my Flame Emperor's sword. It makes me excited to upgrade my main weapon in the future too once I find a genuine A-ranked fire material to merge with it or replace its base. With my weapons now upgraded, I turn to try to make something a bit unique, and soon discover the possibilities of a very unique crafting option for a defensive item. Now this is what I was looking for. Shard of the Colossal. Plus 266% strength. Plus 210% defense. Plus 200% mental strength. Metal Fragment of Infinite Regeneration. Plus 338% strength. Plus 290% mental strength. Plus 277% defense. Hidden ability. Dash. Infinite Essence of Regeneration. Blood Bonded. Plus 365% strength. Plus 329% defense. Plus 312% mental strength. Plus 300% speed. Plus 300% agility. Hidden ability. I use another 8 ounces of blood, and this craft takes over double the mana crystals that the last one did. Once the flash of crafting light is finished, a tiny orb of liquid silver-colored metal is left in its place. I look at it closely, seeing the appraisal reading on it and wondering how exactly I'll be able to equip this item. The moment I picture it as a ring in my mind and push my finger forward, the silver ball shape shifts into a ring and floats onto my finger. Out of pure reflex from touching this silver material in the past, I get ready to cut my own hand off if it begins to freeze and turn to metal. However, seeing as it's blood bonded and my own item now, thankfully it doesn't. I still raise an eyebrow at the fact that it didn't turn into a ring the moment after the craft was finished. The slow rate of transformation is quite odd. With a name like that, I'd assume it'd be a crystal consumable, or maybe a necklace or something. As I speak these words aloud to myself, and picture what it would have been in my mind, the silver ring around my finger shifts and grows, forming into a large silver crystal. Then, moments later, into a necklace with a shimmering string with a pendant on the end. As it floats above the palm of my hand, I begin to understand what this item really is. I picture the silver liquid transforming into a shield, then a spear, then a sword, and finally an enormous wall that mimics my mana shielding. I'm even able to expand the silver moldable liquid into a dome that completely covers my entire body and expands outward tens of meters to grow larger and larger. Can instantly transform into whatever I desire. My guess is that it will have very adverse effects if an enemy touches this liquid silver material, just like when I was fighting the being it came from. The infinite possibilities run through my mind as I continue to shape-shift the material into whatever I wish, but won't have any clear data until I test it out against an actual opponent. The only downside I'm able to find now is that it uses up a lot of mana to expand and regenerate. Once the sun begins to actually set, I revert the silver back into its ring form and place it on an empty finger. Alright, that's enough fun. It's almost time for me to get back to the Vice region and pick up those building supplies. Chapter 477. As the sun fully sets, I go to the Canyon of Dungeons and teleport back to the labyrinth to update Ember and my double on the news. Afterward, one of my doubles that was farming the labyrinth takes the post of surveillance on the town while Ember and my final double continue their dungeon collapsing. I receive a single small flake of luminite straight into my storage and a confirmation that my double is holding enough containment stones to charge another pod up to nearly 50x right now. I take this information to mind while teleporting back to a dungeon inside the Vice City Dungeon Hub, then change my appearance back to a D-grade hunter and walk through town. Once I pick up this order, I'll bring this news back to my teammates. As soon as I walk through the front door of the office building, a commotion fills my ears. Multiple businessmen talk to each other with concerned tones. Did you hear? There was a dungeon break that broke through the protective barriers of the hub's shielding protection. Impossible. No monster has ever broken through. It's supposed to be A-grade rated. No monsters are even that strong. It's true. Not too far away either. They're investigating and mending the shielding right now down the street. It was really that close by? I heard not a single monster even got out. The association must have deployed their strongest team to take care of it before the city was in danger. I don't mind their chatter because if I'm not mistaken, I'm the monster they're talking about. Breaking through the ground and protective barrier of the dungeon hub wasn't the stealthiest move I could have pulled while leaving earlier. However, it was definitely worth it. I made it back to Sector 2 just in time. It really doesn't matter to me how much chaos I cause here. I merely see this city as a playground to be used for my wants and needs. The more work I cause for the Vice Regents branch of the association, the better. I hope they dig around this mystery for as long as they can. They won't find a thing. As soon as I get to the desk at the back of the room, the receptionist from before greets me with a smile. He speaks up even before I do. Back so soon? It's almost like you disappeared into thin air. How can I help you, sir? Well, I believe my order is ready to pick up. I paid your father upstairs for an express delivery. He rings the bell again and tells the older woman named Tracy working there to go upstairs and relay the news. She comes back down a few minutes later with a clipboard in hand and a large set of keys with a smile on her face. Then, looks at me and motions for me to follow. Right this way. I'll bring you to the warehouse where we've sourced all your goods. We walk out the front door together and I begin to follow her through the dimly lit streets and into the warehouse district. Her heels click on the hard sidewalk and her fingers tap a pen on the clipboard, completely out of rhythm with her steps. This narrative has been purloined without the author's approval. Report any appearances on Amazon. On top of that, many sounds fill the streets. There are metal and wood factories still processing materials at full capacity, workers leaving as they get off their shifts, and some new workers arriving for their night shifts to start. After walking through the lively area, we finally arrive at a massive warehouse district and stop at the side of a wide building that stretches further than many sports fields put together. Once she clicks one of the keys in place, and a small door opens to let us inside, what I see is rather shocking. Just the sheer amount of stacked materials up to the ceiling of a multiple-story building, and further than the normal I can see, is more building materials than I've ever seen in my life. This is all yours. This is what 6 platinum bars gets you after all. Are you going to need the warehouse number to assign pickup units? Or would you like to use some of our trucks? After midnight, we'll have to charge you daily for taking up the warehouse space here. My gaze is still glued to the thousands of trees worth of wood. Steel beams and stacked piles large enough to build the entire warehouse we're standing in again, and the brick and cement that could build sidewalks and roads large enough for the entire distance we walked on our way here. I whisper under my breath, Maurice really isn't messing around. That's good to see. Then, reply to the woman. I have enough item boxes to pack it all up myself. Just leave me here. I'll get it cleared out within the next few hours. She looks at me with a dazed stare, only seeing the one item box around my waist that isn't even real. It's a manifestation of my conceal skill doing its work. I can tell she wants to question how I could possibly fit all of this into a D-grade item box. But she bites her lip and turns to leave. Very well. The boss told me you were a unique customer. I will let you be. It was a pleasure doing business with you, and your privacy will be granted as wished. We hope to do business with you again in the future. The door clicks behind her as I'm left alone in the warehouse. I activate my all-seeing eye to confirm there are no magical recording devices in here. Then quickly and carefully put small blocks of stone using earth magic over the old-fashioned video cameras on every corner of the warehouse for my total privacy. Once content that I'm not being watched, I activate my spatial magic skill and expand it outward in every direction as far as it can go. I walk down the long warehouse length and all of the rows of material fall inside and remain in a state of suspended animation. This is both extremely time and energy efficient, but also a great test for my storage power. I've never hit its limit. However, once I get to the end of the warehouse and the last stack of pallets falls into my white portal, I find that today the limit will not be found. It makes me consider that maybe there isn't even a limit to begin with. After making the walk back through the completely empty warehouse, I use my earth magic again to let the stone from the cameras fall away and show them the little item box on my waist and a thumbs up to thoroughly confuse anyone watching the surveillance footage. Then, walk out the door and make my way back to the dungeon hub, and soon fly back to the town that now sits under the completely dark night sky. The first thing I do is try to find one of the abandoned warehouses out in the desert that is even close to the size of the one I just left. But none of them compare. To make sure all of the materials are safe, secure, and accounted for, I use earth magic to create a stone replica of the warehouse I just left. It takes tens of thousands of MP to summon all of the stone material. To make sure it's lit during the day, I add large openings in the walls every 10 meters or so and fill them with the product of mixing sand and fire magic. The windows aren't perfectly clear glass, but they'll let the light in somewhat once it's daytime. Once it's complete, I open my storage and let all of the materials back down into this makeshift warehouse exactly how they were when I took them from storage. That's as good as it'll get. I'll leave the actual building to the professionals. On my way back, I notify Maurice and his team via telepathy inside their rooms that the supplies have been delivered and tell them where to find them. I don't expect them to start using them until morning, but a notification can't hurt. Afterward, I walk into the guild hall and find Abby sitting in the middle room of the octagonal building. She's lying back on a comfortable-looking chair, half asleep. However, I feel her aura spreading out past the guild hall. It even fluctuates the moment I step inside, so I can tell she's still on guard, just resting up with the free time she has after a long few days. She perks up once I begin to speak. Mission accomplished. Ready to check on the others downstairs? I'm curious to see how much they've improved. Chapter 478. I enter the middle room with Abby and open the hatch to the underground bunker with a single click. A wave of visible dense chi flows out, and I feel my body naturally absorb it once it hits my skin. We both begin walking into the bunker down the spiral stairs, and I close the door above not to let any excess chi come flowing out. Down below, the sound of sparring takes place, and the humming rattle of an isolation pod fills my ears as well. It is vibrating and giving off a bit more noise than it did when I left it this morning, but it's not that far outside of my expectations, so my attention shifts to the teams of people sparring on the empty side of the room. Fisher and Lydia's cores are filled with chi, and they are doing very simple hand-to-hand combat training, matching each other's basic chi blows. Eri is fighting Monk one-on-one. His core is dense with chi as well, flowing through his body at a more intense rate than the others. It looks as if he's been training with this energy for far longer than just a day. His exposure to chi in the past has certainly made it easier to channel it now. Then, at the back of the room in the lotus position, I see Luna. Her eyes are wide open, and the blue energy is magnified now, mixing with the chi in the room. Her core is dense with chi as well, but its capacity isn't even close to a tenth of the others' training. She's been awakened, but possibly not a combat type, so she's working on training her eyes in some way. As Abby and I make it to the bottom step of the room, everyone stops sparring and turns our way. I speak up. So, the awakening process went smoothly for all of you, it seems. That's good, but I think we're going to need to increase our rate of training even more. I recount the events that occurred outside, and they all report feeling their energy fluctuate earlier in the day when I used my power holder perk. Along with this, I tell the team enough containment stones have been charged up to the point where another pod is ready. However, I'd like to see what state the pod Maria is in once it's finished before I use these resources to charge up my only remaining one on hand. In addition to this, once I see how efficient these pods are at chi gathering, I may send a double back to the Galeheart Tower to persuade Lith to give me some of the others he has on hand. My gaze turns to Luna once my update is complete, and I see that she is still not connected to my Rising Emperor's domain system. Knowing this, I walk over and pose a question. Now what will you do? As you can tell from my story of the second-ranked Dark Guard, the powers we're against will only get more terrifying. You may have a past bond with Ari, but I know nothing about you. If you would like to stay here in the core of our operations or fight with us, I need a confirmation of your loyalty to me as your leader. This is not a negotiation. It is a requirement. I don't have time or mental space for doubt. She turns to Ari, and I open a three-way telepathy link between us. He speaks to her through it, letting me listen in on the conversation. This will all be over soon, once I finish my training and do my duty in defeating the Dark One's army. We can go back to Sector 4 and search the abyss. It is eating away at the back of my mind too. Trust me, Luna. This content has been unlawfully taken from Royal Road. Report any instances of this story if found elsewhere. She responds through the link, turning to me with wide eyes. You know about what happened in Sector 4? I nod, but Ari interjects. He does. Jay has given me the power that will allow us to get deep enough into the abyss to find our past. Without him, it would be impossible. Swear your loyalty and everything will work out. Please see him as one of our brothers and sisters from the village. I trust him with my life. She smiles and bows her head slightly. Very well, if it is Aries' wish, then I will follow you as a leader. A new link is formed, and her geopoint along with full status shows up in my mind's eye. Still, a million questions about what they're so desperate to go back and look for enter my train of thought, but there are far more important urgent matters at hand here. So, I break our telepathy link and speak up to everyone else. We're going back to the labyrinth. We're going to grind mana control absorption until Maria leaves her pod. We have just under 36 hours until her time is up. If we're lucky, we'll be able to level grind you all up to 1000 to push a forced rank up in the process. I use spatial magic to allow the unused isolation pod to fall into my storage. We'll take turns using this in the labyrinth if you're in need of a break. My double will watch over the city and Maria while we're gone. Without questioning my words, all of us leave the underground bunker and make our way to the Canyon of Dungeons. I teleport them all to the 39th floor, share my absorption skill to everyone, and immediately assess their strengths after the chi awakening they just went through. Abby is the first to use the spare isolation pod while these tests commence. Her power hasn't changed much, and the opponents on this floor were already one-shot kills the last time we were here. I place the pod near the back of the dungeon by the boss room, and Monk stays behind to guard the pod, as he hasn't improved much since our last session either. Fisher and Lydia, on the other hand, have risen to a whole new level. The last time we were on this floor, it took both of them fighting with their full strength and Red Hydra's buffs activated to subdue one of the high-level elite minotaurs. Now, with chi infused in their blades, they're able to slice the heads of these beasts off in single movements. The monsters on this floor don't wield any chi themselves, so it isn't the greatest indicator of how they'll fare against genuine soul energy, but it's a vast improvement to how they fought before. Ari shows improvement too, at a rate much faster than I even believed to be possible. He's capable of imbuing trace amounts of his core's chi into the spirit arrows he manifests, sending out attacks of chi similar to the strikes I learned to throw out of my sword after absorbing well over 150 chi pills and months of training. It's clear that his core capacity and strength of attacks are still far less deadly than my own, but the fact that he can already manifest physical chi outside his body is a unique and very promising trait. He's able to obliterate an elite minotaur's head in a single chi-infused strike. Luna watches all of this in shock, with a bright blue aura constantly surrounding her eyes. Her level, combat skills, and mana control are far too low to even think about challenging one of these beasts. However, this will change after our training session is complete. Soon, she is about to be power-leveled higher than ever imagined. This is for the sole reason that I'm curious if she'll get an upgrade to that unique skill and blue aura around her eyes. The three of them clear out all of the minotaurs on this floor except for the mutant. This is saved for my double and Ember once they return from doing their rounds creating another containment stone and farming the lower floors between 30 and 38. We walk back over to where Monk guards the isolation pod, and the door opens letting Abby step out fully rested. All right, it's time to start power leveling. I put the isopod back in my storage, and we all walk through the spinning gray boss room portal. Once a level 996 boss appears, we get to work. It takes a few minutes for the room to reset each time, and only the person who deals the final blow gets to absorb the MCP, so we rotate who gets to fight each respawn. The upside of this is that we all get to give pointers and test out new combat techniques on a near A-rank monster that spawns in at level 993 to 997 over and over. Then, once each fight is done, we all share the EXP. Floor 40 is still on cooldown, and Floor 41 is impossible for us to challenge. Given these facts, fighting this boss is the best possible source of mass MCP and EXP we can get. Every kill lets the one who defeated it gain tens of millions of MCP, and each time we cycle back, the party gets far closer to reaching level 1000. Although the amount of EXP gained per kill when a monster is a lower level than oneself is minimal, it isn't non-existent. It may take some serious grinding, but it is possible for everyone here to rank up from this boss room alone. Chapter 479. After the first 4 hours pass, everyone matches the same level as the strongest boss that can possibly spawn, level 997. Just about 500 million MCP is gained by each of them fighting. Luna does not have the combat ability to kill a Minotaur, but she comes along for the ride and gets power leveled through the roof. She passes level 500 in just a few boss room runs and gains a new buff called Eye of the Last Full Moon. In addition to this, her available proficiency points are force used during the rank up process, and her single skill, Moonlight's Gaze, is upgraded to legendary grade. After another 5 hours pass, everyone reaches level 998. The fighters gain 600 million additional MCP each, and they begin taking rests in isopods at staggering intervals. After 9 hours of staggered 1-hour breaks and nearly 1 billion additional MCP gained each, everyone on the team hits level 999. I speak up once everyone is well rested, staring at the boss room portal, waiting to enter again. We have 18 more hours until Maria awakens from her pod. Let's push through and rank up. Roughly 15 to 16 hours later, after close to another 2 billion MCP have been farmed, everyone in the boss room is overflowing with power just from this grinding session alone. Even without a rank up, their mana control and chi capacity has risen far over 2x in just a day and a half. The first to hit level 1000 is Abby. The next is Ari, then Monk. Following just 2 boss room runs later, Fisher and Lydia hit 1000 as well. They all stand back and wait with bright rank up options floating in front of their status screens while I bring Luna back into the boss room a few more times before she gets the notification too. All 6 of them stand in the middle of the grassland dungeon on the 39th floor as my double slaughters Minotaurs with Ember in the background. Simultaneously, they all press rank up, and white light floods over their bodies. A few minutes pass as I float in front of them, but none of the lights stop shining. I remember when I ranked up a second time, it took me a few hours to come to as well. However, I thought that was only because I was awakening a greater energy form. I think to myself for a while longer, then open my link with Ember once I sense him nearby with my double again. Hey, could you two come here for a minute? I have a special task I need done. My copy and Ember both come over and I relay the news. We brainstorm for a few more minutes about the time it would potentially take to get here from Sector 1 on foot, and the relative power my teammates have shown during this training session compared to the 7th, 6th, and 2nd ranked Dark Guards. However, the conclusion we both agree on in the end is the same. They're strong, but not strong enough. I toss a teleport crystal to my double, and it transfers all of the containment stones it's farmed and charged over the last 2 days into my storage, along with 2 more glistening shards of luminite. I nod. Thanks, you know what to do next. It's time to speed things up even more. If you spot this story on Amazon, know that it has been stolen. Report the violation. It disappears without a trace while Ember and I are left to watch my teammates rank up below me. Every half an hour or so when the elite Minotaurs here spawn back in, I subjugate them quickly, and even get to see Ember use a light red manifested soul energy sword to cut down a few Minotaurs of his own. All of the powers he was granted other than a human body are still a mystery to me. He drops some hints about them once we get back to the 6 people ranking up with collected firestones in my storage. You know, that 2nd ranked Dark Guard sounded like he was a blast to fight. No excuses this time. I'll be ready for the next battle. I still have a few new finishing moves I need to try out. I nod with my arms crossed. We'll all have plenty of opponents to go all out with soon. Save your energy. Once my double blips back into the 39th floor, it's laughing while pulling out 5 brand new isolation pods from its storage. I did what you asked, but Lith was using one of them. I would have asked him before taking these, but his timer said 5 hours were left. I place my open palm on my face but accept the 5 brand new isolation pods without hesitating, then transfer over the uncharged firestones I farmed back to my double. That's fine. Even if he said no, I would have taken them anyway. His life relies on these next few hours too. He can try to be angry with me after we deliver him the Dark One's head. At these words, the 6 white lights below me begin to dim down, and 3 of them even stop glowing entirely. The rank-up process seems to be finishing up now. Ember and my double go back to collapse another dungeon with the newly farmed stones out in the desert while I watch everyone begin waking up and standing to their feet. They look down at their statuses with awe and I too am impressed at the new mana control frequency coming off of most of them. I point out into the dungeon as the Minotaurs respawn. Take a few minutes and test out your new ranked-up buffs. It will be good to get a feel for your new power before we move on to the third and final stage of your training. My eyes widen as I take in the magnificent sight of varying shades of blue, green, and bright white lights fill the dungeon and incinerate LVL 970 monsters the instant they're touched by the energy blasts. The body of a serpent, visual of a white ghost, roar of a tiger, eye of a god, arms of a demon, and form of a goddess fill my senses. It's hard to keep track of everything as I take in the magnificent view. A corner of my lip turns up as they all deactivate their buffs and walk back to me. Good, you've awakened your ultimate weapons. Now let's sharpen these blades and get you ready for war. I dungeon walk them back to the canyon, and we fly back to the town with ease. Everyone's movements have become far more agile and confident. It's clear they're itching to use this new power, but as we make it to the center of the city and begin to descend, I put my Flame Emperor's disguise back up and speak. Patience. You still have a long way to go. You'll soon see what I mean. We descend into the town as the morning sun rises, and a few new things become visible to me. Full sections of the center square are completely rebuilt, and other sections are still being remodeled. The section of housing where people were staying before in 1 to 2-story old homes have been turned into 4 to 6-story apartment buildings that have beautiful windows and balconies, and the front entrance has a square of its own that connects to a main road back to the guild hall. On this road, I see a few small shops already open. A pawn shop, tiny bakery, and a bar are the most prominent ones with people walking in and out. However, most of this road is still vacant and still being built. Off in the distance by the mega warehouse I made the other night, I sense my surveillance double looking over 21 slaves under the elixir of suggestion carrying supplies. There is a team of architects directing them and giving orders while building up another apartment complex on the other side of town. They're so far away, they don't even notice us arrive. However, I'm glad they're enjoying themselves and using the resources I've given them. Good. One less thing for me to think about now. Let's see how things are going underground. All 7 of us walk into the guild hall and I open the hatch that leads downstairs. Immediately, a loud humming and rattling sound erupts from the bunker, but it's followed by a dense wave of chi that feels like a warm ocean wave is hitting my ankles. There's so much coming out, it's almost a shame to watch it disperse into the atmosphere without trying to absorb some. Everyone feels the same way, so we walk down the spiral stairs quickly and close the hatch behind us. The isolation pod at the back of the room shakes and vibrates violently, but the timer on top says 5 minutes and 21 seconds. So we stop and stare. Abby speaks up after a few seconds pass. Just in time to see the great reveal. We all slowly walk forward and watch the minutes and seconds tick down to midnight. Then the curved metal door swings open. Chapter 480. Long flowing blonde hair and sharp royal blue eyes emerge from the white wave of chi flooding out from inside the isolation pod as the door fully opens. Maria steps forward and everyone is left in silence as we witness a pure outline of bright white chi, twisting and swirling around her body. Her skin looks smoother, her figure appears more mature, and her overall appearance looks as if she's entered into a new prime. She's glowing with power, truly an upgraded version of her past self. Not a drop of mana makes its way through the barrier, and it's clear the use of this technique is second nature to her as she walks further out of the door and looks each of us up and down. Her gaze stops on me, the only one with a chi barrier like her own, and switches her serious stare to the hint of a smile I can see hiding her bubbly nature beneath it. Let's spar. Simultaneously, the door of the isolation pod falls off its hinges and I see the inside of its shielding is cracked and discolored. My eyes focus on it as I see the top portion that still stores a considerable amount of mana within it begin to leak faster and faster to the point where I question if it's going to explode on the spot. It was showing signs of wear and tear just moments ago, but the full extent of its damages wasn't clear until the time dilation stabilized with the outside world and Maria stepped out from the pod. I open my storage and allow it to fall into suspended animation before anything unpredictable happens. Then respond to Maria. Of course, that was going to be my question to you regardless. I need to see how much more powerful you've become. Let me get some preparations for the others ready. Then I'll give you the real fight you've been waiting for. Maria keeps walking forward, looking down at her hands and observing the room with careful eyes. I can tell just by the way she moves, her chi and mana control have risen to astronomical heights in the last 2 days. For us outside, it has only been 48 hours, but to her it has been over 3 months. As she walks over to the exit, I turn back to the others who are still staring at her without saying a word. Then, take 5 of the 6 isolation pods in my storage out and place them in a line. In a matter of seconds, I carefully use my craftsmanship dashboard integrated with the capsule's designs to equally charge each of them with the containment stones I have from the last 2 days of farming. They all become charged up to dilations between 43x and 47x, and I turn back to the squad. Next to them, I place food, water, sleeping gear, and miscellaneous supplies that were left over from a few days ago when I went shopping for the townspeople. Everyone take a pod, except you. I point to Luna. We need combat fighters to use these pods only. Chi is a limited resource. I turn back to Ari, Abby, Monk, Fisher, and Lydia. The chi is split unevenly between you all. I'm keeping what I have on me for my turn, but I trust that you'll distribute the amount you have on you between yourselves regarding who you believe will need it the most. Time is running out. The author's narrative has been misappropriated. Report any instances of the story on Amazon. As I remember, Abby and Monk both have 300 pills each, while the other 3 have a few hundred between them. Split evenly, they'll have close to 200 each, but no matter how they distribute them, I believe if they get half of the result Maria achieved, they'll be ready enough for battle. They distribute the pills and gather the supplies they want while I give a briefing on what to expect, how to gather chi, and explain the basics on establishing a chi barrier. Then end my spiel with a simple line. You know what you need to do. 48 hours in the pod. Come out as sharpened weapons of war. They each enter their pods and I nod to them goodbye and good luck. Then, turn around to see Luna timidly standing next to Maria at the back of the room. I speak up to Maria and point to the stairs. Let's go spar. I know just the place. She begins walking up the stairs and I follow. Then, turn back as Luna is still waiting for a place to go and speak to her too. You're going to watch. I want to know what those eyes can really see. She follows right after and we exit through the hatch to leave the 5 vibrating pods in the basement below us to venture out into the desert. We fly about 10 kilometers away from the town, and I use telekinesis to carry Luna behind us. Once we make it to an open part in the desert and touch down on the sand, I put my hands up in a fighting position and stare Maria in the eyes. She stares back and shows the same smile from the bunker before while putting her hands up as well. Neither of us activates any mana-based skills, but the flowing white barriers of energy around us get denser and denser the longer we stay in the ready position. Luna steps far back a few hundred meters like we recommended, and activates her ranked-up buff to manifest an enormous light blue transparent eye high in the sky. That gives us the cue to start. Maria runs forward, and I do too. The sound of chi on chi like crashing waves echo through the desert as our spar begins. Fists smash against fists, forearms block kicks, punches are landed. Chi speeds up our reaction time and boosts our movement speed. I feel as if I'm fighting a mirror, and it's clear to see that Maria feels the same way. Dust flies up in the desert, creating twisters and miniature sandstorms wherever we move to. Every punch, kick, and strike we throw gets faster and faster as we try to gauge each other's power with incremental increases in strength, but it only gets higher with neither of us stopping anytime soon. My movement speed and strength that I'm using eventually surpasses the 7th ranked Dark Guard. The precision of my attacks nears the pinpoint accuracy of the Lightning Wolf on the 40th floor, and the sheer amount of punches and kicks I throw nearly replicates the storm of Windblade attacks I was forced to encounter while facing the 6th ranked Dark Guard. She's managing to keep up with everything I throw at her and even launch attacks of her own back with equal speed and force. While doing so, she's managing to keep that same hint of a smile on her face. Maria is enjoying every second of this thoroughly. I am too. It feels as if we're dancing to a song no one else but us knows the notes to, and it's being written down and ingrained in our minds every new step we take. While it is refreshing to fight a teammate of this caliber, It is also slightly terrifying to think about the fact that Maria isn't even ranked up yet. She went into that pod at level 994 before we all started level grinding, and her chi control is already on par with the lower-ranked Dark Guards without using any mana at all. I find what I believe to be her limit when I see a bead of sweat on her forehead, and a spark of ice magic activate in her eyes. I jump back and speak up before she can bring this spar to a potentially dangerous level. Good. That's enough. This is good progress. I think you're almost ready to fight the Dark One's army. The dust settles around us for a final time, and the large glowing eye above us, connected by a thin string of mana to Luna's back, blinks and disappears into thin air. I pull out my sword and point it out into the desolate desert. There is one last thing I'd like you to test out. I channel a small amount of chi into the blade and swing it across my body, allowing it to flow out of the sword and release a slash of pure white energy. Then turn back to Maria. I doubt you had the chance to try an attack like that in the isopod. You may want to develop a longer-range chi attack of your own before we go to the labyrinth and rank you up. She reaches for her own sword in her item box on her waist, but a yell from Luna behind us turns our attention away from this topic. Her yells can be heard from far away in the direction her eyes' energy left from. There's something coming. I can see something coming our way. It's a knight. A black knight. That's all I could see. It's just a single black suit of armor with a number 5 printed right on its chest.